Alrighty, folks, tons to get to today. We're going to go through everything Jeffrey Epstein related. What's the real story? What do we know? What don't we know? Why are people so fighting mad about the DOJ and FBI announcement that Epstein killed himself and there is no Epstein list? We'll go through every single detail that we can find on this. Plus, we get to a Grok meltdown over on X. What the hell is going on at X? First, this year marks a decade of the Daily Wire, a decade of fighting the lies, the censorship, the cultural rot, a decade of building a platform the left can't cancel with real news, unfiltered commentary, unapologetic truth. While the legacy media collapses under its own dishonesty, we continue to grow fast. We just added Isabel Brown to our lineup of the most trusted voices in conservative media. The Isabel Brown Show is coming soon. More shows, more voices, more major announcements, more ammo in the fight for America's future. But if you're not a member, you will miss out. You won't see the biggest moments. You won't hear the facts first. So don't wait. Go to dailywireplus.com, become a member, and join the fight. Alrighty, folks, so enormous number of people upset, bamboozled, bewildered by the FBI DOJ declaration a couple of days ago in a 2-page memorandum that the case against Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein was effectively closed, with the revelation that Jeffrey Epstein did in fact kill himself. He was not murdered in his prison cell, and also that there is no so-called Epstein list, a list of men to whom young underage girls were trafficked by Ghislaine Maxwell and by Jeffrey Epstein. And people freaked out about this, and for good reason, because the reality is, of course, that we have been told for years on end that there is such a list, that there is a gigantic web of conspiracy in which Maxwell and Epstein were enmeshed, and they were essentially running young girls for the pleasure of overage, very famous, very wealthy, very powerful men, right? That was the story that we were all sort of brought up on over the past few years. And so let me say right at the outset,
never underestimate the power of the Scouts Code.
You don't know the answer. Nobody knows the answer. All I know is the publicly available information from court documents and from public disclosures and from various allegations made by various parties. That's all I know, and that's all anybody knows, except for members of the DOJ and FBI who have access to all sorts of information that you and I do not know. And so I will say right at the outset that when you look at the number of people inside DOJ and FBI who have now come out behind this memo, they have information I do not have. And so you now have a choice. You can either believe that these people are motivated by a desire to cover something up if the conspiracy goes even higher than we thought, or you can believe that the people who are in a position of power, in a position to know, the people with access to data that I don't have, you don't have, no one has, that those people actually are telling the truth based on their legally best information. Right? That's your choice. There is no third choice. Right? Either all of those people are personally involved in the cover-up, they know better, and they are lying to you, or they're telling you the truth. And since I have no reason to believe that Dan Bongino, for example, or Kash Patel at the FBI, or Donald Trump, or J.D. Vance, or any of the other people in the administration who have spoken about this before and now are saying that Epstein killed himself and that there is no Epstein list, I don't have any reason to believe those people are lying to me, and they have better information than I do. All I can do, rationally speaking, from my own perspective, is say that I believe them. Now, could evidence emerge that completely contradicts all of that, and it turns out they were part of a conspiracy? Sure, that could happen. And when that happens, I will change my opinion. But all of this broke out into the open yesterday when, after this DOJ FBI memo went out, President Trump was asked during a cabinet meeting about the Jeffrey Epstein case. And he got rather irked because, in his view, this thing has been ongoing since 2019. It is now 2025. There's a lot going on in his administration. In President Trump's view, the American people have a lot of priorities, and the Epstein-Maxwell case is low on the priority list. Now, it is obviously true that for a huge number of President Trump's core supporters, the Epstein-Maxwell case was a sort of litmus test for trust in government, in the authorities, that if you were essentially black-pilled, if you knew that everybody was corrupt, then this was a great test case for seeing just how awake you were to the excesses of government and the cover-ups and the conspiracies. I mean, that's true. That's just the way that the online ecosystem works. However, when President Trump speaks for the American people more generally, and he says, guys, don't we have better things to do? You can understand his irritation. The man is trying to negotiate an end to a war in the Gaza Strip. He's trying to negotiate an end to a war in Ukraine. He's attempting to revivify the American economy. He's attempting to crack down on illegal immigration. On a list of American priorities by the polls, the Epstein-Maxwell case comes in pretty close to zero, just on a list of priorities. Not that it doesn't matter, but if you poll Americans, and President Trump is the president of the United States, he's not the president of X, this does not rank high on his list of priorities. So here he was yesterday being rather irritated by the question.
And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the set?
Yeah, sure. If
Hey, Pam, could I just interrupt for
Sure.
1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas.
Okay, so, again, President Trump being irritated, you get it. He has other priorities. Now, Pam Bondi has put herself in the line of fire because the Attorney General, you will recall, not all that long ago, back in February, she did a couple of things. Pam Bondi. One, she went on Fox News, and she was asked about the Epstein list, and she suggested that she had it on her desk. Now, she claims that what she meant is, I have all of the documents surrounding the Epstein case on my desk, and we're going through them. All right, fine. She should have been a lot clearer about the fact that she didn't actually have access to an Epstein list at the time. Then, of course, Pam Bondi handed out binders to a bunch of influencers that supposedly contained new information about Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. And it turned out it contained no new information whatsoever. And so a lot of people felt hornswoggled by this, as well they should have. Those influencers were used, and they were used wrongly by Pam Bondi. Well, now, Pam Bondi is questioned about the fact that the DOJ released a jailhouse tape that shows the hallway outside Jeffrey Epstein's cell for an hour, but there's a minute missing from the tape. And this, of course, is where all conspiracies live. Like the 18 missing minutes of the Nixon tape. All conspiracies live in the gaps. So, here is Pam Bondi responding to that accusation.
We released a video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
Okay, so we'll get more into what happened on that date, not on that date, in just a moment. Obviously, the reaction has been absolutely outsized, people going nuts over this entire story. So, Elon Musk went to X and immediately posted about all of this ripping into President Trump. Quote, how can people be expected to have faith in Trump if he won't release the Epstein files? Now, the reality is an enormous number of Epstein files are already public. I mean, that's something that we noticed when the binders were handed out to the influencers, is pretty much all that stuff was already in public view. And we keep hearing this with regard to the JFK files, or the MLK files, or the RFK files, that somewhere hidden in these files is the smoking gun. Well, just because we haven't found the thing you're looking for in the files doesn't mean no files have been released. Then Musk, because he hates Steve Bannon and Bannon hates Musk, and it's one of our more amusing public tete-a-tetes, Elon Musk said Bannon is in the Epstein files. So he's just using this as a way to cudgel political opponents at this point. But of course, there are people who are genuinely upset, Tucker Carlson among them. Tucker Carlson put out an email newsletter that said, quote, apparently Jeffrey Epstein is innocent. The government is doing a bad job of getting us to believe the Jeffrey Epstein story. Okay, so first of all, no one claims that Jeffrey Epstein was innocent. No one claims that. Seriously. The DOJ doesn't claim that. He died in prison.
Where's the action?
So, no. The actual claim is that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. And also that there is no gigantic list of third parties to whom Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking children. Doesn't mean he was innocent in any way. But, again, all of this is part and parcel of a broader theory that's being spun out by people like us. And the real story is that Jeffrey Epstein was either a domestic intelligence agent or a domestic intelligence asset working for the CIA or with the CIA, or a foreign intelligence asset on X, obviously, because this is how X is constructed. He must be Mossad, right? This was the going theory in the online space. And if the evidence is not released to justify that theory, or if the DOJ and FBI say that theory isn't true, that is not proof that the theory isn't true. It's not even evidence the theory isn't true. It actually is evidence the theory is true. And this is the problem with conspiracy theories generally. There are indeed conspiracies. We'll discuss one that the FBI and DOJ are investigating in a moment. But the great wonder of a conspiracy theory is that it is totally unfalsifiable. So, if the DOJ and FBI said there's no evidence for the proposition that you are putting forward, This just needs an old joke about a man who goes to heaven, and the first question he asks God is, who shot JFK? And God looks at the man and he says, well, it was Lee Harvey Oswald. And he shot him. Right? Lee Harvey Oswald. And the man says, I never realized he was suicide. Once you reach the level where you have no your suppositions are more important than any of the evidence, or even the credibility of the clear. When people like Trump are attacking the DOJ and the FBI here, they're attacking President Trump's DOJ and President Trump's FBI. They're not just attacking Condon, who again, I think, acted really irresponsibly by feeding this monster for a while without the evidence to actually support it. But the attacks are not just on Pam Bondi for being inconsistent. The attacks are on the entire Trump administration, because if you actually believe the proposition that the Trump administration knows better and is lying to you in order to cover for a child trafficking sex monster, if that is your supposition, then just say it. Really, just say it. Because that's what you would have to suppose. There is no third choice. Even if you believe that the Trump administration is doing this to cover for a domestic intelligence agency or a foreign intelligence agency, that would still be evil. Okay, if you're an American and you are covering child sex trafficking by either the United States or our allies, that is of evil. You just accuse the people of power of evil if you're actually going to do it.
That's crazy.
Instead, what you get are sort of broad, speculative ideas about how this is seeding a revolution, or permission structure for revolution. One of the ways that the left has become so violent over time, and they really have, is because many major figures on the left have said, well, it's not that I'm excusing violence, but you have to understand the feelings of Luigi Mangio. It's not that I'm excusing violence, but you have to understand where the revolutionary fervor is coming from in the streets with Black Lives Matter. It's not that I'm in favor of violence, but you have to understand the concerns and the deep wellspring, upset, and feelings among Antifa and Portland. This is what the left does in order to create the permission structure of revolution and violence. And on the right, the same thing can be done. So here's Tucker doing precisely that, suggesting that President Trump's Epstein cover-up is going to spark a revolution. Here's the Sagar saying.
So they're not stupid.
But how can you say that thousands of children were raped, but I'm not going to find out who raped them?
Yeah.
How can you say that?
I agree completely.
They said that. By the way, when Pam Bondi went on television and said, I have a videotape of kids getting abused, I followed this case closely, and I know a lot of the people involved, as I told you.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. I didn't know that. Really? Thousands of children got raped? Who raped them? Where are the rapists? Like, why aren't they in jail? This is the Department of Justice.
Yes.
That is so crazy. This is honestly one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my entire life. And I just think it's very dangerous to play around with this stuff. Like, very dangerous. Well, I don't want a revolution, but if you wanted a revolution, I can tell you that.
So, I'm just wondering, if you don't want a revolution, instead of suggesting that this is a giant cover-up by the federal government, you would instead suggest that Pam Bondi was incompetent in the way that she retailed the story to the public in the first place, as opposed to suggesting that it's a continuing cover-up of child sex trafficking. Alex Jones is creative. He's come up with his own theory of what happened here, that somehow both says that the Trump administration is lying, but also says that the Trump administration is still awesome in telling the truth, which is props to Alex Jones. This is a creative take right here.
Trump has taken control. He didn't do it. They're shutting it down. Everything I've seen. He is taking control of the FBI, CIA blackmail file. And now I suddenly see the deep state more and more rolling over. People say, well, that's very immoral to do. The argument would be it's too damaging to bring this out and bring down the whole government. I'm not endorsing that. The best approximation I've got is they get the oil to bring the FBI. They generated the FBI 5 months ago. When they hit the balls in New York, they think Sky resigned, and Comey Coder's still there. They didn't load the gun, cock the gun, point at the deep state's head, and now suddenly the NATO, everybody's kissing Trump's butt, and it looks like Trump is now in control of the file. And obviously they're not going to read in the FBI, the CIA, and Ratcliffe doing it. The best approximation I've got, it is speculation, but a lot of points, is that Trump has decided to just use the file against them.
So again, his idea is going to be eventually Trump might release the actual information, but in the meantime, he's using this information to get control of the evil deep state. Again, great creative way of keeping yourself on side with the Trump administration while also accusing them of a gigantic child sex trafficking cover-up. Again, points for creativity. Joe Rogan put out a tweet, shout out to all the people that still don't believe in conspiracy. Their ability to stick to your guns is inspiring. Well, that's overbroad.
I like the look of this
I certainly believe that there are conspiracies. I also believe that if you're going to allege a conspiracy, you should remain open to the possibility that there is no conspiracy, so that if the evidence shows there is no conspiracy, you're not so wedded to conspiracy, you end up in the area of complete speculative nonsense. There are certainly conspiracies. And hell, evidence may emerge here that shows that it was all a cover-up. But until that evidence emerges, I'm not willing to suggest that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and J.D. Vance and President Trump and Pam Bondi are all liars on behalf of people who sexually traffic young girls. I'm just not willing to believe that's the actual case. And I'm not willing to believe that because before you slander someone as complicit in child sex trafficking, you might want to show evidence of your own that you have that shows that that's actually happening. Already more on everything Jeffrey Epstein related, what we know, what we don't, open questions, all the rest. If you are one of the big wireless providers, you are overpaying for wireless, period. You're paying for thousands of retail stores you never actually enter. You are paying for unnecessary perks you never use. You're paying a massive premium for what you think is superior 5G service. Well, guess what? Pure Talk uses the same 5G network on the same 5G tower. The difference? They don't actually charge you for any of the garbage. Instead, Pure Talk uses limited cost, package, and plenty of data for just $25 a month. Folks, that is less than half the price of the big guys during a time when saving a buck actually matters. I'm a Pure Talk customer. I made the switch. What is your excuse? You can even keep your phone and your number. Pure Talk is great. You're getting it just the same as the big guys. You're saving money, and you're giving your money to a company that doesn't hate your guts. So do this. Go to puretalk.com/Shapiro. You'll save an additional 50% off your very first month. You can literally be switched over to Pure Talk in less than 10 minutes. That's puretalk.com/Shapiro. Switch on over to Pure Talk. Wireless by Americans for Americans. Again, puretalk.com/Shapiro. Save an additional 50% off your very first month of coverage. Switched over in less. Also, the business landscape has never been more volatile. This environment, real-time adaptability isn't just an advantage. It means survival. Companies that can't pivot quickly aren't just falling behind. They're facing existential threat. To navigate this chaos, you need complete visibility across every aspect of your operation, from global shipments and tariff impacts to real-time capital analysis. Next, AI-powered already over 40,000
has been slain.
leading cloud ERP platform NetSuite consolidates accounting, financial management, inventory This comprehensive visibility enables lightning fast decision making, backed by real-time forecasting and actionable data insights. With AI automation handling routine tasks throughout the cloud, your teams can focus on strategic initiatives. While NetSuite identifies bottlenecks, calculates their true cost, provides clear pathways for rapid pivots when market conditions demand immediate action. It's one system, full control, tame chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in the 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/Shapiro. It's netsuite.com/Shapiro. Now again, this doesn't answer the question as to why the Trump administration, particularly Pam Bondi, was out there retailing stories apparently knew were unsubstantiated. Jack Posobiec was very upset with Pam Bondi. And again, I don't blame Jack Posobiec for being upset about it. I know Jack was one of the people who was brought to the White House and handed that binder and he's holding it up. So I understand why he's upset. He's basically used as a sort of prop in Pam Bondi's bizarre public relations.
She says that we don't need to hear about Jeffrey Epstein ever again. You know what this sounds like? I'm going to tell you exactly what this sounds like. Pam Bondi sounds like Hillary Clinton right now, saying, at this point, what does it even matter, when she was talking about Benghazi, all right? This is not how you treat the American people. This is not how you treat basic communications.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Posobiec is wrong here. Again, the question about Pam Bondi is, was she fibbing before in order to continue to retail a very popular online theory with the MAGA base? Or was she fibbing now in order to cover up with the natural right? Those are your two choices. The first choice seems to be substantially more plausible than the second choice. Glenn Beck is among the others who's been calling for Pam Bondi to be fired for her incompetence. And again, I just want to point out, these are two separate issues. Pam Bondi's incompetence in retailing this entire story and telling it to the American public and all the rest, that certainly should be a question. That is a separate question from the broader question that's now being asked, which is the entire Trump administration, DOJ, FBI, everyone, complicit in a gigantic child sex trafficking conspiratorial cover-up? Because two things can be true at once. One, the DOJ and the FBI actually are not lying, and they are getting this right. And also Pam Bondi did a terrible job talking to the American public and said a bunch of things that turned out not to be true. Those two things can be absolutely true at the exact same time. Here's Glenn Beck going after Pam Bondi. Again, I think not unjustifiably.
Never outgunned.
You know, this is not proof that anybody did anything. No. This is proof they are absent. Pam Bondi needs to be fired. Who is rolling this out?
Turret
The
lady
little
will
rascals?
soon fall.
Panky, look, I got some videotape. What are you doing? This is ridiculous. This is such absolute incompetence.
And again, I agree with Glenn as far as the incompetence here. Okay, so I want to go through all the details, what we know and what we don't, and what are the open questions and what are not open questions and all the rest. Because I think that it is fair for the American public to actually know all this stuff. And again, better disclosure is going to be my end call here. I'm going to end with a call for the DOJ and the FBI to extraordinarily put out a gigantic report that explains all of their various conclusions, not just a 2-page memo. They gave full report explaining all of their various conclusions, because obviously the level of public scrutiny on this case is justifiably incredibly high. Again, I know many people are exercised by the fact that the DOJ and the FBI just announced the Epstein case is closed, killed himself, Epstein list, and that's pretty much the end of the process. I get it. We all agree that Jeffrey Epstein was a total, complete piece of human debris. Predatory, evil criminal who inflicted unspeakable harm on vulnerable underage girls and deserved far worse than he actually got. Again, that also does not mean the Trump administration is now on. It doesn't mean all our questions are answered or that evidence has been provided to answer all of it. But here is my question. If Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, all told me today that after looking at all the evidence, it turns out that Epstein was a Mossad or CIA agent who trafficked in young girls in order to honey trap prominent people and blackmail them, I would believe them. I would. If they said that today, I would believe them, because they've seen the evidence that I have not seen. That's not what they're telling me. They're telling me the reverse. So, why do I believe them? Well, one reason that I believe them is because they asked the exact same question Rogan, Carlson, and everybody else did. And they wanted the exact same answers. These are not people who make a habit of covering up for the deep state. In fact, here is the tape of them asking literally all the same questions.
What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? You're going to accept Dick Durbin's word, or whoever that guy is, as to who's on that list and who isn't, and that opinion can't be released? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
The American people have a right to know, and Donald Trump is the most transparent president in our nation's history. So not only will America get the full Epstein files, they will get JFK, they will get Martin.
And to me, that's the thing I think President Trump should run on day one, roll out the black book.
There are tens of thousands of children or child porn, and there are hundreds of victims.
I want a full investigation. And that's
Folks, please keep your eye on this case. Can't emphasize to you enough. This Epstein thing is more than meets the eye there. I know a lot of people want to make this thing go away. There is absolutely no way that the now CIA director, Catherine Rumble, and everyone else didn't know they were talking to a sex offender. The question is, why were they talking to him, and what were they trying to make go away? Does it have anything to do with the extensive video network alleged to have existed on his island and on his plane?
Shut down.
What were they fixing?
Okay, so, again, here is the conclusion that I'm coming to. Every single one of those people, every single one of those people is asking the same questions that you're asking, that Tucker's asking, and Rogan is asking, and Glenn is asking, and I'm asking. We've all been asking. They were all asking those questions. So you have to believe they got into office, all of them, many of those questions when they're in office, and they decided that they were then going to participate in the cover-up after having spun up the same questions that they were supposed to. Or you have to believe they got in, saw the evidence, and then made a call based on what they made a message. It seems to me the second theory is far more plausible than the first. So here's our job. Or that leads. Again, I do not have more evidence today that answers my question than I did yesterday or the day before. except that I do have the word of people I trust who do have access to that evidence. I didn't suddenly gain access to the information, but you know who did. Cash Patel, Dan Bondi, J.D. Vance, President Trump. Cash Patel and Dan Bongino were among the loudest voices demanding the truth about Epstein. You heard them do it right there. And they, like many of us, strongly suspected a cover-up in Epstein's death and hoped for a bombshell revelation. These guys were not the shills for the establishment. They literally built their reputation by challenging and, by the way, by uncovering conspiracies. Dan Bongino, the guy who's on the front lines exposing the Russiagate hoax. The guy who's been calling out the weaponization of federal agencies. The guy who's been consistently right about institutional corruption. When someone like Dan Bongino tells you he's now reviewed the entire file and that Epstein killed himself and that there is no Epstein list, shouldn't that carry some weight? I mean, does he earn any benefit of the doubt given the fact that, again, he is the guy on the front line when it came to the Russiagate, and who's asking the same questions about Epstein? And how about Cash Patel? This is someone who worked inside the system, who saw the deep state machinations firsthand, who helped expose the FISA abuses and the corruption at the highest level of government. These are not apologists for sex trafficking. These are people who put their careers on the line to talk about a President J.D. Vance, Dan Bondi, who all operate under the exact same assumptions that you and I and Tucker and Glenn and everybody else were operating under. Tell us the evidence does not support the conspiracy. Again, I totally understand that for years being lied to by the wider bias conditions and a continuing lying media on a daily basis for seeing how all the institutions can be weaponized against conservatives. The default position is hate, and that is totally reasonable. But here is what the rational from the irrational. We still have the evidence to follow it where it leads, even when it's uncomfortable, and even or especially when it contradicts preconceived notions. And again, if one day evidence emerges this was all a coordinated cover-up, a genuine conspiracy orchestrated by the Trump administration, I will be the first to come out and say I got it wrong, they lied, I was wrong about all these people. Because, again, when new evidence emerges, I reevaluate and change my position. That, I thought, is the job. Now listen, I understand this is a tough pill to swallow, I get it. We were all making assumptions, asking questions in similar ways about Jeffrey Epstein. I was open to literally all of these theories. So were members of the Trump administration until they saw a bunch of stuff I haven't seen and you haven't seen and none of the people who have been talking about this have seen. For years, we've been operating under the collective belief that there were a bunch of mysteries that needed to be solved. And the narrative was compelling. And again, it made sense given some of the facts that had been alleged and the evil nature of the people who are at the center of this. Well, here is the thing. Here is what we separate from the evidence. The facts are only the facts remain. The FBI, their investigation is over. The DOJ has released their findings. Multiple investigations have all reached the same conclusion. Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide. There is no evidence of an actual Epstein client list. More on everything Epstein related, the fallout, the actual case, your open questions, all of it. First, if you're feeling overwhelmed by access, you're not alone. Maybe you missed that April deadline, or your financial records. Whatever the situation, don't put it off. The IRS isn't getting any friendlier. Those penalties, they pile up really every 25%, and that adds up really quickly. Here's the thing. They don't have to handle this alone. Tax Network USA specializes in exactly these situations. They've worked with thousands of Americans, employees, small business owners, people who haven't filed in years. Messy books, they've literally seen it all and they know how to sort it out. What sets them apart is their direct access to IRS programs that most people don't even know exist. Plus, why are you waiting to qualify? They may be able to reduce or even eliminate what you owe. More importantly, they protect you from even scary stuff, wage the sooner you act, the more options you will have. Call 800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Shapiro to talk to a real expert at Tax Network USA. Take the pressure off. Let Tax Network USA handle your tax issues. Also, let's talk about your gut health. Probably something you should be thinking about, but we're probably ignoring it. If you think post-meal bloating is how your body works is wrong, it turns out you should not be suffering after you eat. Enter Peaks Pure Tea. Now, fermented tea might sound like health store nonsense. I get it. But producer Justin has been using this for a while. He can attest to the fact that this stuff actually works. He starts his morning with black pure for metabolism support and reaches a green pure after meal. It keeps him feeling light, not like you just swallowed a brick. It's smooth, earthy, doesn't taste like a garden hose. Here's the sign. Pure is fermented and means living probiotics, prebiotics, the good stuff your gut actually needs. It helps with digestion, metabolism, and skin health. Clinical studies back this up. This isn't snake oil, it's science. No wonder it's trusted by experts like Dr. Mark Hyman and Chris. Quality? This isn't gas station tea. Peak's purity is wild harvested from 250-year-old pesticide, no junk, dissolves right in the water, no bags, no steeping, drop it in, go right in. For life, not one. For life, plus, completely started with water and last year. Fast, nice, real good. Head on over to life.com/HeroYourGut. So, I want
Gosh. You guys know they're there.
No one
do it first. Get it?
Let's begin.
Somebody got it.
So in March 2005, in Palm Beach, there was an investigation opened into Jeffrey Epstein. The family of an underage girl reported molestation. According to Miami Herald, quote, a 14-year-old girl and her parents report that Jeffrey Epstein molested her at a mansion in Palm Beach. She said a female acquaintance and classmate at Royal Palm Beach High School had taken her to the house to give him a massage in exchange for money. On October 20th, 2005, the Palm Beach police executed a search warrant for Epstein's home. Police believed that Epstein was already tipped off because his computers were gone at the time. In 2006, May 2006, Palm Beach charged Epstein with unlawful sex with a minor. It was based on a probable cause affidavit signed by the Palm Beach police. In July 2006, he was arrested by the Palm Beach police, but the grand jury only indicted on one charge, solicitation of prostitution. There was no indication in that particular indictment of victims in question. Reminder, the FBI also opened a federal investigation. In June, August 2007, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Alex Acosta, entered talks with Epstein's lawyers about a plea bargain on the federal charge and on the state charge. September 24, 2007, Epstein signed a non-prosecution agreement. This was titled later the Sweetheart Deal or the Deal of the Century. There are big stories about this when Alex Acosta was Secretary of Labor. Epstein's court appearance was delayed by his lawyers and further negotiations until June 2008. Among the terms of the agreement, victims would not be notified. The non-prosecution agreement would be sealed. Got 18 months in jail, plus 12 months of house arrest. No federal prosecution. No federal prosecution of any co-conspirator. And the victims were not informed of the deal. We'll talk about this in a little bit as to why that sweetheart deal got cut and what the available evidence. June 30, 2008, Epstein pled guilty to state charges. The U.S. Attorney's Office agreed not to prosecute federally, even after the federal government had prepared a 53-page indictment. And as we say, that included one count of solicitation of prostitution and one count of solicitation of prostitution with a minor under the age of 18 who was registered as a convicted sex offender in Florida. In July of 2008, the victims learned of the plea deal after the fact. They actually filed an emergency petition. They forced the federal government to comply with the Crime Victims' Rights Act, which mandates the right to be informed about plea deals and short sentences. August 2008, the victims sought federal prosecutors battled them because of non-prosecution agreement.
Easy peasy.
Again in October, Epstein began to work on the program. He reported to an officer in Palm Beach during the day to work and then returned to the Palm Beach County Jail in July of 2009, Epstein was released from Palm Beach County Jail 5 months early, and he's supposed to finish his sentence on house arrest. He was making frequent trips to New York City and the Virgin Islands, even though he was supposed to be on his Palm Beach home. And again, should this raise your hackles and suspicions? Absolutely, of course it should. August 2009, the federal NPA is now made public. About a dozen civil lawsuits are filed by women alleged of molestation. In November of 2009, Epstein's former butler, Alfredo Rodriguez, was busted trying to sell a black book with the names of girls and women. And that book later became part of the public record as part of civil lawsuits. In April 2010, there were flight logs that came from those civil lawsuits against Epstein. But the names known publicly are only from court records, which mention prominent names in the proceedings. And these are all people who either flew aboard the Epstein plane or visited Epstein at Epstein Island, or friends and associates with Epstein. It's included Bill Clinton, President Trump, Prince Andrew, Spacey, Nigel Campbell, Ted Dubin, Jean-Luc Brunel, Alan Dershowitz, Ghislaine Maxwell, Lex Wessner, David Copperfield, Chris Tucker, and Stephen Hawking. In March of 2011, 2 Epstein victims filed a motion in federal court accusing the government of violating their rights by not notifying them of Epstein's plea deal, and they sought the invalidation of the plea deal. In September of 2011, U.S. District Judge Kenneth Mara declared victory and rejected the federal government's argument that they didn't have an obligation to notify victims in the absence of a federal charge. And Epstein had starts making large donations for scientific research, world peace, cancer research, through his own foundation. Gave Harvard $9 million, MIT $850,000, the International Peace Institute $650,000. Fast forward to 2015, January 2015, and this is where things start to spin out into allegations about third parties. Virginia Roberts Giuffre, who was one of the alleged victims, and there's a picture of her with Prince Andrew and Epstein. About the sworn affidavit that was forced to have sex with Prince Andrew and Ellen Gerson when she was underage. She also alleged that Blaine Maxwell worked at Epstein's academy. In April of 2015, a federal judge ruled that Giuffre could not join the Federal Crime Victims' Rights Act lawsuit. In September of that year, she filed a lawsuit against Blaine Maxwell for defamation in federal court. Giuffre would later settle the suit with Maxwell for an undisclosed sum in June 2017. Several civil suits were also filed around the same time, alleging an Epstein-Maxwell
Let's get over there, guys.
Come on. Operation. As we'll get to in a little bit, it is Giuffre who's the source of the suggestion that people other than Maxwell and Epstein were the people for whom the goals were being procured. Because we'll talk about the case against Maxwell is not about Maxwell trafficking girls in San Diego. It's about her trafficking for herself. November 2018, Miami Herald revisited the case with Acosta because he's now the new Trump cabinet secretary of labor. Huge debate about this plea deal, the sweetheart plea deal. In July of 2019, Epstein was arrested in New York on federal sex trafficking charges. The charges were sex trafficking of minors and conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. Acosta resigned as the Secretary of Labor that same month. The FBI executed a search of Epstein's Upper East Side townhouse, and Epstein pled not guilty. On July 24th, he was placed on suicide watch 2 weeks prior to his death, after being found unconscious in his cell with neck injuries. He was then removed idiotically from suicide watch after being evaluated by a psychologist at Great Chapel College. August 10th, he was found dead in his cell. August 12th, 2019, the FBI raided Epstein Island. August 27th, 2019, a federal judge gave 23 Epstein accusers their days in court. The next year, 2020, July 2nd, was convicted at the end of the following year. Count 1, conspiracy to entice a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex acts with Epstein. Count 3, conspiracy to transport a minor with the intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. Count 4, transporting a minor with the intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. Count 5, conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of minors. Count 6, sex trafficking of minors. He was sentenced to 20 years in 2022. On March 27, 2023, the U.S. Southern District of New York requested a review of photos and video from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. In June 2023, the DOJ Office of the Inspector General released a report on Epstein's custody and supervision in jail, including information about the video camera, Epstein's first appearance suicide attempt, and suicide watch, the items found in his cell, and an evaluation of negligence on behalf of prison guards and staff. They found at the time of court. July 1st, 2024, newly released transcripts from the 2006 Florida grand jury was made public with some redactions because of circumstances modifying state law to allow for that particular circumstance. Those were released. And now, fast forward to this year. On February 27th, the DOJ announced a file day where everybody walked out with binders. And the DOJ, under Pam Bondi, said the first phase of files released today sheds light on Epstein. A quote, the Department of Justice is following through on President Trump's commitment to transparency and lifting the veil on the disgusting act of Jeffrey Epstein and his co-conspirators. The first phase of files released today sheds light on Epstein's extensive knowledge and begins to provide the public with long overdue accountability. And FBI Director Kash Patel also put out a statement, quote, the FBI is entering a new era, one that will be defined by integrity, accountability, and unwavering dedication to justice.
That's freaking so disappointing. You knew she was there. No, don't follow that.
There was some sort of
just defend
mess up with the FBI. And she sent a letter to the FBI that same day requesting additional files. Quote, before you came into office, I requested the full and complete files. In response to this request, I received approximately 200 FBI, consisting primarily of white Epstein's list of contacts, a list of victims' names and phone numbers. I repeatedly questioned whether this was a full set of documents responsive to these requests, and was repeatedly assured by the FBI we have received a full set of documents. I am directing you to conduct an immediate investigation into why my order to the FBI was not followed. So it looks like Pam Bondi was trying to sort of shift blame onto Kash Patel and the FBI for not turning over documents. All right, fine. But there was no actual evidence that the FBI was doing that. Captain Kelly, responding to that. We'll turn it over. All right, fine. Okay, July 6th, 2025, that is when the DOJ memo comes out. And I want to read you again, the DOJ memo, so we know exactly what it says and what it's not. This is the memo, quote, as part of our commitment to transparency, the Department of Justice and the FBI have conducted an exhaustive review of investigative pleadings to ensure that the review is thorough. The FBI conducted digital searches of databases, hard drives, and network drives, as well as physical searches of squad areas, box cabinets, tests, process, and other areas where responsible material. In short, these searches uncovered a significant amount of material, including more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. Files related to it include a large volume of images, and over 10,000 downloaded
huge freaking stuff right there.
Pornography. Teams of agents, analysts, attorneys, and private citizens to comb through the digital and documentary evidence with the aim of providing as much information as possible to the public while simultaneously protecting victims. Much of the material is subject to court-ordered sealing. Only a fraction of this would have been aired publicly had Epstein gone to trial. The seal served only to protect victims and did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. Again, that last point there is rampage. It served the seal on future was not designed to prevent the exposure of additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. No basis will not permit this. This is no incriminating crime. There's also no credible evidence. Epstein flattened. We did not uncover evidence. That's good credit for the investigation. In charge of their parties. And we'll find this right after. I'm saying, all the evidence. Either Bongino, Trump, J.D. Vance, they're all lying, or they've seen evidence that has destroyed a turret. So you can make the case that they're lying. Go for it. At least say that that's what you're saying. At least be clear about what you're accusing people of.
Orders are more
Consistent
like
with prior disclosures, Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. Each suffered unique trauma. Sensitive information relating to these victims is intertwined throughout the materials. This includes specific associates, and employment history. One of our highest priorities is combating child exploitation and bringing justice to victims, perpetuating unfounded theories about Epstein. Neither of those ends. To that end, says the DOJ, we have later provided the public maximum information regarding Epstein and ensure examination of any evidence in the government's possession. It is the determination of the DOJ and FBI that no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. After a thorough investigation, investigators concluded that Jeffrey Epstein was suicide. Its conclusion is consistent with the client, federal correctional officer regarding
Good job. Good job, guys.
Special housing unit where Epstein was housed at the time of his death. As the DOJ's
Good job. Good job, buddies. Where'd the game at? Come on, game. Pop up, please. Game. Where is it? I can hear it, but I can't see it. That's dumb. Should I be updating my computer? Let's see. Give me a second. Give me 1 second, I'll be back. All right.
Giving them 10 days to remedy that situation. We have remedy for them, but if they do not comply within 10 days, then we will refer.
Alrighty, folks, it's time to talk about the biggest conspiracy and the biggest cover-up in modern American history. And no, I'm not talking about Jeffrey Epstein. If you want my full take on that, you can listen to yesterday's show. But
was unfit
with eyeballs for when he went on stage with Donald Trump and effectively died on the stage. But it was clear to anyone with eyeballs who was watching Joe Biden for any amount of time that this was a man who's in serious mental and physical decline. And Kevin O'Connor was the former White House physician for Joe Biden. And here he was yesterday pleading the fifth. He was asked about what he knew, when he knew it about Joe Biden's health condition, and he pled the fifth.
Were you ever told to lie about the president's health?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Did you ever believe the president was unfit to execute his duties as president?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based on the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Dr. O'Connor, is it your intention to decline to answer all questions put to you today by the committee on the basis of the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination?
On the advice of counsel, I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Hey, this is insane. This is insane. Okay, so he is claiming based on two things that he is not going to testify. One, of course, is physician-patient privilege, which is the idea that you are supposed to keep secret the sort of health information that you and your doctor exchange. The doctor is not supposed to talk publicly about that. However, the physician-patient privilege should probably not extend to public statements that you make about the health of the President of the United States, because you're violating patient privilege by even saying that much. Right? If you make a statement that the president is healthy, that the president has the following conditions, that's a violation of physician-patient privilege in any other context. Right? If your doctor went to a bar today and started talking about your specific health issues, even if he said you're totally healthy and fine, that's a violation of physician-patient privilege. Okay, but that's exactly what Kevin O'Connor did as the White House doctor for Joe Biden. He put out public statements about the health of the President of the United States. And so asking him about that really should not be an issue. As far as the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, that protects against self-incrimination. So what he's saying is, if I talk here, then I may find myself in danger of a perjury trap. I might find myself in danger of committing a crime, which is absolutely astonishing. Again, remember, the original question here was, were you instructed to lie about the president's health at any point? That is not, by the way, a question about the president's health. Notice that's not a question about the president's health. That's a question about the lies surrounding the president's health. And if he says yes, then he's relying on the Fifth Amendment, presumably. Right? He might be committing a crime. And he's saying that he might have told the American people something false, or told Congress something false, or something like that.
I am. What's cracking?
All of which goes to the fact that it is a dramatically undercovered feature of our national life that for several years, the president of the United States was not Joseph R.
Last
Biden,
game,
elected president of the United States.
the worst jungler ever.
Who colluded.
Absolutely horrendous Amumu.
Okay.
He landed like maybe 2 Qs all game.
Who are you in this game?
Lulu. I got autofilled.
Oh, cool. Lulu's a good champ, though. It'll be a fun game. Free wins are always fun, right? Maybe sometimes. Alright, let's do big things. So their Zed and their Morgana are decent. Everybody else is kind of meh.
Let's see if this makes it through the first explosion.
the Summoner's Rift.
If it's worth shooting once, it's probably worth shooting a
Ready?
lot.
30 seconds until
Yes,
minions
so.
spawn.
Let's get this party started.
Cool.
Minions have spawned.
Winners don't duck.
Okay, 25 gold. I'm on it. Don't mind that. You got a word for this or no? Yeah, they're here.
Orders are more like guidelines here.
Oh, so
Why
close.
did she turn back?
You get her? Oh, you're dope! Right on, man.
I'm not gonna hit him. Dating for you guys.
That's good.
Lulu early. Low-key has a lot of damage.
Yep.
Like, I was tempted to E them instead of you. Cause look at that.
Sometimes outnumbered, never out.
Cool. We could just
She was
zone.
auto and E away, but there's no way I could have reached.
No, you're fine.
I had to burn it for the morgue. Sent morgue to the morgue.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there. We should zone her though, seriously, because she shouldn't be able to like step to us on anything.
Okay, just let me know if you want to go in.
As soon as I hit level 2, it's gonna be this next minion.
Let me get in there.
How does Orin solo kill anyone? I never get that about the champion.
Especially early.
He just seems like a team fighting menace. Who passively outscales everyone because your team gets bonus items.
Just hide. Act like you're bad.
Oh crap.
That's one.
Enemy double kill.
2 down.
Chasing stuff.
Maybe we should shoot faster.
Diana, come on. Diana's not paying attention.
Oh, I got E twice instead of W by accident.
That's okay.
Get in my way. I dare you. I dare you to do it.
It's weird. You guys, long distance spell. That's ridiculous. That is a ridiculous amount of damage right there, I think.
Because if she goes in, or if we go in, I could just W their carry. Once I see the Morgue shield is down. I'm gonna try to get her to throw out her Q.
Okay.
Alright, she lost it. I'm on a ward.
Yep. I was just gonna say that.
Where's the action?
Alright, we'll push. And then I got a base.
Okay.
Alright, got what I came for. Nice.
Nothing like overkill. I'm moving. Falling back. Can't wait to try this out.
Those.
I just need a point in the right direction.
Oh, come on. You're so close. Good job. Good job.
Yeah, I used my E on you when you engaged. Didn't have it for the Diana. Unfortunate.
That's alright. We got what we came for. Oh, actually, I'm gonna wait for. I'll just kidding. It's too much gold. Just at a freeze if you can. Like, nothing wrong with last hitting, but.
An ally has been slain.
You got a word for here?
If it's worth shooting once, it's probably worth shooting a lot.
Yeah, I got one.
I'm 1 minion from 6.
What's your torment? Dropping like flies.
Good job.
You can dive her.
I'm gonna
You
grab
have all your
health real quick.
cooldowns
Just hang
except
on. I'm gonna wait for stuff and then I'm gonna grab that.
She used her Q.
Okay.
An enemy has been slain.
Let's get this party started.
Ice is gonna be back.
You have slain an enemy.
Now you see him, now you don't.
Okay, I'm out. I'm out. That's my item anyways, so.
You could 2v1 her if she's dumb enough to go in.
I mean, you saw how low I am, right? I know you got ult, but.
Yes. Like that. Alright, let's push and get out.
Objective kick on this.
Hashtag Jubaited.
Time for some rearm and redeploy. Do you sell earplugs too?
That's an interesting placement.
Well, I'm full build.
Winners don't die.
Our team, I can't do it all by myself. They've got to join us.
Enemy killing spree.
Orders are more like guidelines, really.
He's dead.
Rampage.
Get chilled.
Going back bottom.
Overwatch.
Nice.
Are you?
Sometimes outnumbered, never outgunned.
Dead's coming down.
You don't hurt him if you don't hit him.
Ha 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 ha. So stupid.
Let me get in there.
Yeah, I think that ADC's just about done. You saw there's 3 here, right? Oh, can't do nothing. Can't do nothing. Sorry.
That's fine. That flashed for me.
Yeah, it's all good. The Nexus is all that matters. Our team's honestly just happy to have no pressure. I don't care.
Your turret has been destroyed.
Maybe we should shoot faster.
I'm gonna get this tower, then I'm gonna
May ram.
I got this one. Double time.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
I'm going in.
An enemy has been slain.
Okay.
The Vandal Gunner never turns tail, unless it's to taunt you.
An enemy has been slain.
Morgan's like legit terrified of me.
Infinity anything is pretty awesome. I dare you to dare. Walking tall.
Thank you.
Double kill.
This game pretty much over.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit, house.
Has destroyed turret.
Keep him off me, keep him off me, keep him off me.
Oh, I dropped it. I gave you the W. It's not enough though, unfortunately.
It's fine.
Up and at 'em.
Thank you for being 0 and 4 at the time.
Pick up that blue buff and then kill somebody.
Who wears a helmet?
Oh, I thought that was the same.
Speed, speed, a little bit of speed. That's it.
And now the real Zed's gonna appear. And I'm not gonna have my flash.
That'll work.
Oh, Wukong baited me. I thought he was gonna fight.
They don't want to fight me, dude. Like, they actually don't want me. They're just like, they want me out of their base, but they don't want to, like, get into a conflict. Let me get this red buff real quick, and then I'll go kill the Mordekaiser. Actually, I'm gonna take this tower, it looks like.
I just need a point in the right direction.
Aww. Lucky. Juke it. Okay. I guess he already spins it on me, maybe. Is he not 14 yet? He's still not 14. Oh, that sucks.
I said that. Wow.
Double kill.
What a drawn out fight. Mordekaiser and Yorick, not Yorick, Mordekaiser and Orin, they were fighting for like 30 seconds. Way too ambitious on my part.
That's crazy. Poor guy. Poor other guy.
Ace.
Is he working on me? Thank you, buddy.
Hit the Mordekaiser. I'm like a third. Down to 0.
Your team has destroyed a turret. Your team has destroyed a turret. Your team has destroyed an inhibitor. Your team has destroyed a turret. Rampage.
I got no mana. I'm just gonna back.
Your team has
He's in
destroyed
there.
an inhibitor.
He's not afraid.
Shut down.
I need to show me.
Unstoppable.
I'm coming back now that I got mana.
Dominating. Dominating.
Hey! Let's go.
Did he just play solo then?
What's that?
You just play solo, or would you ever duo?
No, I duo. I prefer to duo.
Do you wanna?
Yeah, sure. Just want to check my graphs real quick. Nice. Alright. You're the troll guy, right? Troll till band?
Yeah. Are you streaming?
Yeah.
Could you put the link here?
Yeah.
to keep him in power, despite the fact we have an explicit amendment to the Constitution designed to oust people who are mentally incompetent from this office, which means all members of the Biden cabinet were complicit in the cover-up of his health condition. All Biden cabinet members were complicit in the reality that the President of the United States was not actually the
He's going to
President of the United
unretire,
States. Now, that's a
or
scandal. That's
what
a
would that be, a
cover-up, and
third
that
time
requires
or a second time?
Who's that?
It would be a second time. Do you think he's going to unretire again, or do you think he's done for now?
Who are you talking about? I didn't catch the name.
Pro player double lift.
Oh, double lift? I don't know. None of the players, there is no player that's actually old. So, I mean, I know that, like, people think, oh, no, you gotta have, like, the reaction time of, like, a 20-year-old to be able to play League of Legends, but, like, I don't know. There's some pretty good...
I don't think reaction time... I don't think that really goes down so much. Double lift talked about it, and there are people who are, like, 40 who are just as good as, like, the 19 and 20-year-olds that play Halo.
Right.
Which is an extremely reaction-based game.
Yeah, I'm actually 45, so...
A much deeper investigation. It was all out in public view. There's tremendous evidence for
But
it, and now
there's
all
some
of the
really
key
good players
witnesses
that are older players
are claiming
there's
their Fifth
nothing
Amendment
like
rights.
There's nothing wrong with him coming back. It's going to come down to money and truth. Like, if he can get paid, he'll come back, you know. And it depends too a little bit, you know. His family life is going to make a difference, you know. I don't know if he got married or not, but if he's got a wife that says no, it's going to be no.
I thought you were talking about, like, his birth family. I was gonna say that's
yeah, marriage was
kind of rough.
Yeah,
I remember double lift.
Yeah, he's got a girlfriend, I guess, but didn't have a wife. But it's gonna come down to, like, you know, your girl is gonna have some say. We'll just say that.
A statement was put out on behalf of Dr. O'Connor.
Oh no.
By his lawyers.
I guess it's whatever.
Quote, as you know,
You don't want to do jungle, do you? You don't have to, but I mean, either way, it's fine. I can do jungle. It's not a problem.
The only thing I play for jungle is Nastus, and then that's not enough pressure.
Okay.
Teemo's already banned. I like this. Smolder support. I mean, I'm probably not going to do that. It went poorly last time. Like, I got all the stacks, but the team lost a fight, and then we surrendered. Which really set me off.
Yeah, I don't surrender. I'd rather lose and try hard than surrender. Like, this is crazy.
So for me, it depends on the situation. Like, if I'm Vigar or Smolder, I'll be really stubborn about surrendering.
Once a Vandal Gunner, always a Vandal Gunner.
Dr. Kevin O'Connor served as the physician to President Biden during President Biden's term of office from January 2021 to January 2025. Dr. O'Connor also had been President Biden's primary care physician for the 12 years before President Biden took office. It was Dr. O'Connor's privilege and honor to serve as President Biden's physician as head of the White House Medical Unit. Dr. O'Connor also served in the United States Army for more than 20 years, doing active tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan. This committee has indicated to Dr. O'Connor and his attorneys it does not intend to honor
definitely
one of the most
abort
well-known privileges in our law, the physician-patient privilege. Now, again, he was the White House doctor who did, in fact, speak publicly about the health of the President of the United States while he was in the White House. So this is not a normal patient-physician
relationship. Should be a funny bad game.
Say the lawyers. The committee has indicated it will demand that Dr. O'Connor reveal without any
So
limitation
this game,
confidential information
if
regarding his
Ash
medical examinations, treatment, and care
or
of President
Jax
Biden.
get ahead,
Revealing confidential patient information,
if either of them
violating
gets
the most
ahead, we just
fundamental ethical
win.
duty of a physician, could result in
I think
revocation
we
of
win
Dr.
anyways.
O'Connor's medical license and would subject Dr. O'Connor to potential civil liability. He will not violate his oath of confidentiality to any of his patients, including President Biden. Furthermore, through the issuance of a presidential memorandum dated June 4th, 2025, President Trump has directed the Department of Justice and the White House counsel to conduct a parallel criminal investigation into the same topics being investigated by this committee. In fact, just this past Sunday, Chairman Comer himself confirmed on Fox that Pam Bondi has announced an investigation at the Department of Justice into the illegal use of the auto pen.
Their team
We
is
believe that the
overall
committee
better
should
than
hold its
ours.
investigation in
The
abeyance until any
Mundo,
criminal investigation has
Pantheon,
concluded.
and the Brahma.
Totality
But
of the
they have no ADC.
circumstances surrounding this
So we actually
committee's
have a whole lot
investigation
of
leave Dr.
advantages
O'Connor's choice
that
to
they can't
decline to
really
answer
siege
questions on
towers.
two overlapping grounds. First,
They just
physician-patient
go
privilege.
full force.
Second, the pending DOJ criminal investigation leaves Dr. O'Connor no choice but to
Pantheon. That's going to be
under the Fifth Amendment of the
treacherous at
Constitution
first.
for any questions posed by the committee. Now, Congress can easily solve this problem. All they have to do is just grant him immunity. Because then the Fifth Amendment concern goes away. If they say anything you testify on today cannot be used as the basis for your future
Guess I should have taken
you no longer
exhaust
claim the Fifth
instead of
Amendment.
heal.
Because the Fifth Amendment only applies to agreement where you can theoretically be prosecuted for the thing that you are saying. By the way, there are ways around this. According to the Congressional Research Service, under federal statute, when a witness asserts the privilege, the full House or the committee conducting the investigation may seek a court order that 1, directs the witness to testify, and 2, grants the witness immunity against the use of his or her testimony. So that presumably is the next step, right here. But again, here's the thing. O'Connor was speaking publicly about Joe Biden's health while he was president of the United States. This is not a normal doctor-patient relationship. Here was O'Connor in 2024 publicly saying that Joe Biden's mental health and cognition are totally fine.
How's the president's health? It is? Are you going to come to the briefing room to address us? Probably not.
Just back out.
Then it is term. Oh, okay. And how is his mental cognition?
He wants to do that.
It's excellent. Sir, are you going to perform a cognitive test on him?
That's the problem is they've
He's
got
good
this
every day.
done.
What about the speculation about Parkinson's disease or a related condition? Dr. O'Connor, is there anything to that speculation that there might be something related to Parkinson's that he has? Okay. And the specialist's visit to the White House, does that have anything to do with that concern?
You see him 3 times.
Smiling, walking away, everything's fine. Great. Is there a reason he didn't? Sure. He saw him every day. He was working with him every day. So the Alex Thompson Jake Tapper book, Original Sin, is all about covering Joe Biden's mental health condition. It mentions O'Connor several times. Quote, O'Connor told people the 10-minute test was for physicians who saw their patients only occasionally, and he constantly saw the president. Others suggested doing the test to make sure. O'Connor would sometimes point to the Oval Office and say, Biden's already being president. O'Connor quipped that Biden's staff were trying to kill him, while O'Connor was trying to keep him alive. He passed the cognitive test every day. Again, these were the lines O'Connor was using. So now him claiming the Fifth Amendment is a tacit admission that there was something wrong. We already know. We already know it's a cover-up. The only question is, who did O'Connor cover up?
I gotta be smarter with my E.
Jill?
Never mind, that was a good
Joe?
E.
Who did
She ended
that?
up taking damage.
Also, why was everybody else in the White House complicit in this cover-up? And who the hell was the president of the
They
United
at
States?
first they didn't do anything, and then they went in while the E was still on her.
As consequences, with a radical and unjustified distrust of our institutions on a wide level. What we've watched over the course of the past few years is the complete destruction of institutional trust at pretty much every major American institution. And I think that destruction of trust is largely, sometimes almost entirely justified from the BLM riots of 2020 to the COVID lies that were told during 2020
Ooh, I like the look of
to
this,
the
baby.
lies that were told about inflation in Afghanistan and the president's health. I'm not sure more lies have ever been exposed more quickly than right now. So I totally get the radical skepticism that many, many people are engaging in right now.
And I kind of like the way this
And even in cases
Ash
where I don't
plays.
agree with the outcome of that radical
Sometimes
skepticism, I
outnumbered,
totally understand
never
the radical
outgunned.
skepticism for sure, for sure. This needs to be uncovered to the fullest extent of one. People do need to trust. The American people were lied to. Anybody who was involved in the Joe Biden cabinet that refused to make a move to invoke the 25th Amendment, to ousted the President of the United States for mental incompetence needs to be effectively barred from politics forever. Anyone who is a cabinet secretary who rose to that level, the Pete Buttigieg's of the world, for example, needs to be held accountable for not having tried to invoke the 25th Amendment. Because the American people were robbed of having a President of the United States actually elected. It's unbelievable. And the fact that the doctor is taking the Fifth Amendment right now is just demonstrative of the lengths to which people surrounding the president will go to maintain their hold on proximity to power, even if the person they are supposed to be caring for is the President of the United States, not his administrative power or his family
besides Mel to be strong in this team.
Again,
we can steamroll
widespread
him.
speculation, justified by an
Lulu's
enormous
incredibly
amount
good at
of
that.
contemporaneous evidence, is that it was actually Jill and Hunter who were effectively running the country while the President of the United States was mentally incompetent. The Democrats are going to have to live this one down for a very, very long time. And meanwhile, in foreign policy news, the President of the United States has unfrozen some of the key aid to Ukraine. Meanwhile, Congress is ready to move on Russia sanctions, according to both the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader. According to Politico, both top Republican congressional leaders said Wednesday they are prepared to move forward with new
nice if we
sanctions
could pick up
targeting
Dragon
Russia
pretty
this month,
soon.
after President Trump signaled this week he's willing to pressure Moscow to end the war in Ukraine. Mr. Johnson said Vladimir Putin has shown an unwillingness to talk seriously about brokering a peace, and I think we have to send him a message. That's my view. That, of course, is right. Meanwhile, Senator Majority Leader Coons cited substantial progress in working with the White House on legislation he said would, quote, end President Trump's leverage at the negotiating table and help end the bloodshed in Ukraine. He said Senate Republicans are committed to working with the House and White House to get this legislation through Congress and onto the President's desk. And this, of course, is the right approach. I mean, the fact is that
coming bottom.
wildly interested. He does not want
Oh, if we could get a pick there, that would be great.
Resistance is going to collapse. He will be able to take it. He's also in a situation where he can continue to run this meat line because of third-story windows without the question you need to ask him about every leader killer. He's
this is Dragon, for sure.
He can just continue doing this forever. The United States backing off would mean
I'll be
Ukraine
straight there.
loses the war. In fact, last night in Kyiv was the biggest drone barrage of the
one
war.
for the
Russia
man
had
with the
dramatically upped
Alright, that's all I need.
the answer in Ukraine. Joining us on the line is J.P. Lindsley, American journalist who has reported from Ukraine often live daily uncensored frontline updates to a global audience. J.P., thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, Ben, hello from Kyiv. Great to see you here virtually. I know you were here not long ago, and when you were here, it was calm and quiet. But what we went through last night, really the past week, because last night was probably the worst and most intense attack I've been in my 3 years.
So why don't you talk about what's going on for the last 2 weeks? What do you think looks like?
Oh, come on, guys. That's crazy.
You know, I think that there were
Good job. Oh, what a great stun. What a great stun.
Wow, in the cities. So a city like Kyiv today, you know that every single person in this city was awake the entire night during that horrible.
I couldn't do it. They pushed me off at like 1200.
Moments ago, I was just going for a run through the city. People, you know, went to
That's
work
fine.
on time this morning. I was at my coffee
I had a
shop.
feeling something like that might happen.
And yet, you know, everyone felt this hell. And what we had last night, from about 1:30 in the morning until almost 4 o'clock, something that never witnessed before. Every single second, Ben, for those hours, almost every single second, you heard the sound of the Iranian design head buzzing or exploding. Every single second, 2.5 hours. Incredibly intense, terrifying. Even people that are going through a lot here, military guys, all that, everyone was in there. It just felt like one of those nights you think, this could be the end. And then, very curiously, in the shelter where I was in my building, at about 4 o'clock in the morning, the intense drone attack stopped, and then we got round 2, which was the ballistic missile.
Carrying this is hard
I
for
started to
match.
leave the shelter during the missile attack. In part because you get tired in a way and you accept it. But also, if a missile hits your building, the shelter's not really going to protect you. The irony is, when the more dangerous weapons showed up, people go upstairs and go back up to
So
their
in theory, their bot lane,
just a few hours later,
Brom's supposed to land a Q.
coffee shop.
An ally has been slain.
You can tell everyone is shaken.
Okay, I think I
Pouring
ulted
my
in.
coffee, she just said straws nose, Mary, and she smiles. And beautiful day, the weather's today. And that's the reality right now. We really feel like this, I'd say, for more than a week now. Every day is evening. We have a most beautiful summer day, but as it gets closer to sunset, everyone gets this sick feeling saying, okay, we're going to be done. That has been the case every single day.
So, obviously, Putin is up the ante. On a geopolitical level, the President of the United States is up in the ante as well, because he is now recognized publicly that Vladimir Putin was slow playing him or lying to him about his supposed desire to achieve a ceasefire. President Trump has been for at least months. He's saying he's willing to ceasefire, freeze the lines on the ground, and all the rest.
No mercy actions
saying
going.
nothing of the sort President Trump has advocated to send additional defensive weaponry to Ukraine. You think it's because President Trump is now recognizing
it's not good.
We're seeing, every attack is attack in the war.
Did he get you with the meat grinder?
Yeah.
If you look at Trump's comments, saying the other day that Putin is full of BS, we're starting to see that Trump has seen a different perspective on Ukraine. He's seen that Ukraine needs to win, and maybe even that Ukraine can win. And so Putin responds by lashing out. He's not able to win at the front lines. It's very bloody there. So instead we see him lashing out upon these cities. And so I think that there's a sense that, because Russia's greatest fear is that America and Ukraine would be and so whenever Trump is sort of opening up to Ukraine, Russia makes these sort of moves, I think, out of a lot of desperation. It's also important to remember that not just the heartbeat, the 30 miles in Russia, that's the big part of day and night. And I always talk about it because by day, it is a lovely city. There's no crime. There's no road. Americans saw it. But they only really see the negative side of it. And I think even within the White House, maybe this is changing now, but even the White House has only seen the sad stories, and they haven't seen the stories of strength. And there's a new chance now. Ukraine finally, she's done this a while ago, is dismissing the Ukrainian ambassador to the U.S., who really didn't understand the heart of America. And I think the key here is that Ukraine doesn't score an own goal.
An enemy has been
the right
slain.
person. And so I would hope they would pick someone like someone you met, my friend Gandalf, the warrior from the God, who lost an eye and an arm in battle, who, by the way, listens to your show. Or my friend Roger Federer at Wimbledon, and now he's a soldier in the front lines. If Ukraine can think like that, they can think of the objects.
Barrier. The panic barrier.
I think that Ukraine can actually seize this moment, this awakening from Trump, and the sense that what Russia is doing, as Trump himself said, that Putin is just a bad person. And finally, I think thanks to your reporting and thanks to these attacks on cities like Kyiv, finally Trump is starting to realize that Margaret Thatcher realized in 2000 that Putin is a bad guy.
So let's talk for a second about the situation on the eastern front. Obviously, the case that the United States has made, I think this is true for virtually everybody on the right, including people like me, is that the chances right now that Ukraine's going to be able to push Russia out of Donbass or out of Crimea extremely, extremely low. So when Americans look at the possibility of an off-ramp, obviously everybody in Ukraine, in the United States, would love to see an off-ramp. That off-ramp can only come when Vladimir Putin realizes that he's not going to be able to go an inch further and that there is, in fact, a wall in his way in the form of material aid and support. President Trump seems to be coming to that conclusion right now. How dynamic is the battle right now? Are the lines moving, or is this essentially a frozen line?
Well, I would say here's where the other duality is, because there's incredible things happening in the front, especially with Ukrainian drone innovation. But there's also everything is always also 1-2 steps away from disaster. It's been that way these 3 years. And the Ukrainians have held on, and I think a couple points. One, this thing gets missed entirely. First step
turret plating will soon fall.
Make sure that the flag is in the front line and stop letting secondly, at the front, here's
This guy's Get him, that's you guys, seriously.
Mana, no mana.
Come on. Oh no, so sad.
No mana.
Good dodge.
But it should be. I mean, Ukrainians have held Pokrovsk, which means that instead of the fight being in a major city like Dnipro, it's been in a small city. So when we talk about frozen conflict, I think we kind of miss that element of the story. That actually,
I shouldn't have even gone up top, honestly.
Held the line, other places are safer. And if Ukrainians had the firepower in the west, so what Ukrainians are doing is their incredible innovation. I just posted a thread on X yesterday, SVP Lindsay, about how NATO drones in the country of Ukraine, including American drones, including great American companies, they got and Ukrainians are quickly adapting. They received so many lessons from the beginning. But with those drones, they kind of hold the line. As far as pushing it back,
has been destroyed.
Without the heavy
Your turret has been destroyed.
country like Canada, and especially America. So if Trump were to decide to move away from only an offensive fire, that's the first thing, protect the city. So to really end this, if you get American firepower, which we've seen. I mean, when the HIMARS arrived, Joe Biden reluctantly sent them, Jake Sullivan, Otto Flynn, whatever, reluctantly sent the HIMARS in June of 2022. Before the HIMARS arrived, one city in Donbass was falling every week with the Russian hands. And then what happened? HIMARS arrived, and Bakhmut did not fall.
Can't do anything.
So
He's not gonna freaking.
You see what American weapons can do when they're sent here.
That's JP Lindsley reporting from on the ground in Kiev. Really appreciate the time, JP. President Trump, for his part, was asked by the media about who had authorized the pause in particular Patriot missile defense systems. Here was President Trump being real.
Yesterday, you said that you were not sure who ordered the munitions halted to Ukraine. Have you since been able to figure that out?
Well, I haven't thought about it because we're looking at Ukraine right now and munitions, but I have not gone into it.
What does it say that such a big decision could be made inside your government without you knowing?
I would know. When the decision is made, I will know. I'll be the first to know. In fact, most likely I'll give the order, but I haven't done that yet.
Okay, so the question is then who did
more kills, but low key we're kind of stronger than
the
their
Trump administration are running their own foreign policy. This is a thing that clearly is happening. So, according to the Scroll, which is a daily news update from Tablet, they think that they've uncovered. It's not a shocking that it is probably Elbridge Colby, the Undersecretary of Defense who is allied with the President of the United States and is very much part of the isolationist wing inside the White House. Now again, there can be widespread debate inside the White House about foreign policy. We know that that debate happens. There are very live conversations about a wide variety of topics, ranging from to the Far East. We know that for a fact. It's one thing to have that debate. There's another thing to effectuate your own decision before the president signs the thing. Go ahead and do the thing. And that's a desirable effect if this is true. Apart from Google reporting. Last week, media reported the United States decided to pause weapons shipments to Ukraine, including missile defenses, given its 155mm artillery shells and Stinger surface-to-air missiles amid concern about the U.S.'s stockpile. The move marked a major shift in U.S. policy, one that could spell doom for Ukraine's war against Russia. As it turned out, the policy shift lasted less than a week. President Trump said would continue to defend itself. The next day, he said he didn't know who had authorized the weapons pause. And he added a shot at the Russian president by Putin. So, someone formulated a major change in U.S. foreign policy and announced it to the press without clearance with the President of the United States. So, who was it? According to two reports online, one in CNN and one in Politico, the authorization of the weapons pause came from the Defense Secretary, but the idea came from Undersecretary of Defense for Policy and Restraintist Extraordinary Elbridge Colby. Per the report, Colby recommended the pause after Trump ordered a review of U.S. munitions.
She's crazy. She just walked up
chain at Pentagon.
I can't do anything
signed
to
off on Colby's recommendation, but did so without notifying.
I mean, Jackson's going to take
U.S. envoys to Ukraine, Kellogg, or Congress. Upon learning of the pause, White House officials told Hegseth they would provide cover for the decision, but urged the Pentagon to explain it to Congress. But here, as always, it's not clear who these White House officials were, whether they were acting with Trump's approval, or whether they were even weakening the president's order. And again, one of the things that I noticed yesterday, trouble is that in the political article, the name check bulletin reports of this law. Rush out to defend was the press secretary and communications director for J.D. Vance, not President Trump, not the defense.
I'm gonna go.
And again,
here's this guy.
This all plays a role in the perception of Elbridge Colby's opinion. For the detriment top priority on China is why we are pursuing a military buildup largely directed at the South China Sea and protecting Taiwan.
That was kind of a dope fight, honestly.
It's why we are trying to foster a better relationship with Japan. That is a hard-fought trade relationship happening with Japan right now. Well, apparently, British Gold has been participating in a process of effectively undermining our relationship with Japan. According to that Politico report, he was responsible for tanking the 2+2 summit with Japan scheduled for July. The Japanese had agreed to negotiate on the basis of Colby's initial request to raise their defense spending to 3.5% of GDP. That's double 3% of GDP they're currently spending on defense. But then Colby unilaterally escalated the demand to 5%, and Japan was like, what the hell? Why are you throwing thing in the middle of the table right now, late in negotiations?
Okay, just power farm your jungle for now. Get the items.
National security council ordered an attack also. That's the trilateral U.S. British Australian security pact, under which the U.S. agreed to supply Australia with nuclear submarines, and reportedly alarmed the British by demanding they recall an aircraft carrier from the routine deployment to Asia because the United States does not want it. Again, Japan canceling those negotiations with the United States with Colby, that is unique. Japan really does not like to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm just keep hoping Ash like gets involved with
all of this suggests that there is not just a split inside the administration. It suggests actually that there are some people inside the administration who are just doing things without the permission of the President of the United States. Now, listen. You listen to the show. I don't agree with everything President Trump does. There are times where I'm very critical of the President of the United States. I also don't work in the executive branch. The job of the people who work inside the executive branch is to effectuate the policy of the President of the United States whom they serve. It is one thing to have widespread, open, honest, hard debate about tough issues in American foreign policy. It's another thing to just go do your own foreign policy under the auspices of the President of the United States. That is a very, very different thing. It's a breach of duty. You are not supposed to be doing that. The first one we call that when they're
oh goodness! I gotta run for my life.
We said that was the state thwarting the will of the president. If that is what happened here with regard to the arms pause on Ukraine, then the president makes the headline for that.
Good job.
Truly. Again, it is the president of the United States whose policy must prevail in this conversation. And that's true whether you like the president's policy or you don't like the president's policy. Otherwise, you should quit. Get another job. Focus on domestic policy. Plenty of stuff is huge. And meanwhile, the president of the United States has authorized more action against the nation. The state of California, because the state of California has decided that they are going to, in fact, ensure that boys can race against girls in athletics. According to the Los Angeles Times, the Trump administration on Wednesday sued California for allowing transgender athletes to compete on school sports teams that match their gender identity, alleging state officials violated federal civil rights laws by discriminating against women, a legal action that threatens billions of dollars in federal education funds. The suit, filed in the Central District of California, alleges that California is in violation of Title IX, the 1972 federal law that prohibits sex-based discrimination in any education program or activity.
Even if we don't get sued, if we get at least 2 drag races, that'll make up for the speed
Title IX was enacted over half a century ago.
Well, and I think
we
win.
The Justice Department will not stand for policies that deprive their hard-earned athletic trophies and ignore the safety
we're not
on the field and in private spaces. Young women should not have to sacrifice their rights to become scholarships, opportunities, and awards on the altar of woke gender ideology policy, naturally. Linda McMahon announced the Department of Education is finding California in violation of Title IX during the Secretary of Education.
Well, I can announce, today, this week, that the Department of Education has found that the state of California, the Department of Education,
you just right click on them. I got you.
Interscholastic Confederation.
Very nice, dude.
Title IX. We're giving them 2 days to remedy that situation.
I just press E and then we win the fight.
But if they do not comply within 10 days, then we will refer this to the Department of Justice.
So, that is the right move. That was hard on an announcement by the California Department of Education. They were just going to ignore the federal government. Okay, well, if you ignore the federal government, what happened? On matters of this sort. You'll recall that when he did an interview with Charlie Kirk, he suggested that boys should not be racing against the racism issue of fairness, but he did not effectuate any of that in policy.
But, like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men and females sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that. There's also humility and grace. You know, that these poor people are more likely to commit suicide, have anxiety and depression. And the way that people talk down to vulnerable communities is an issue that I have a hard time with.
Okay, but that does not mean that boys should race against the girls. So Gavin Newsom said all the right things to Charlie Kirk, and then he proceeded to continue to do exactly the same thing that he was doing before. Well, meanwhile, the Education Department is now announcing that their interest accrual for student loan borrowers is going to resume on August 1st, which of course makes sense. And there are a lot of people who are student loan borrowers who are very happy with the student loan repayment clause. I get it. They have gigantic loans on false promise made by colleges that they're going to earn more money. And that is a gigantic scam. I've been discussing this for years. However, the federal taxpayer is not the one who has to pick up the bill for your decision to take out a gigantic loan, major in sociology as well as that really is not the taxpayer's burden. That is your burden. Since the ruling, millions of borrowers remain in forbearance with no interest. The possibility this forbearance could last until summer 2026 before borrowers were forced to switch out. So, the Education Department is now urging borrowers to choose a new repayment plan or restarting payments. In the One Big Beautiful Bill, congressional Republicans eliminated this program and some other repayment options, leaving borrowers with two possible plans: a standard repayment and a new repayment assistance plan. They have until 2028 to figure that out. Secretary of Education McMahon said for years the Biden administration used so-called loan forgiveness funds to limbo, but federal courts repeatedly rejected those actions for qualifying. Congress designed these programs to ensure that borrowers repay loans if the Biden administration tried to illegally force taxpayers to split the loan instead. The administration focused on strengthening the student loan portfolio and simplifying repayment to better serve the borrowers. And that is the goal of this particular program. The administration, by the way, is also going after Harvard on every available front, because if Harvard continues to turn out the propaganda violation of the Civil Rights Act, well, then Harvard's going to take it directly on the chin. According to the Wall Street Journal, the Trump administration has now attacked Harvard University's accreditation, saying that the school has violated federal discrimination law and may no longer meet the accreditation standards. The Department of Education and Health and Human Services notified Harvard's director that a government investigation found the school violated civil rights law for allegedly failing to protect Jewish students from anti-Semitic harassment. The notification does not actually remove Harvard.
Yeah, I think late game for sure we win because they just don't have the
shot across the bow,
the range
telling
to do
Harvard
stuff.
to work with the school to, quote, keep the department fully informed of the matter to ensure that Harvard is in compliance with federal law and accredited. Also, DHS,
Come here, Pantheon.
Goodness gracious. So where was Ash right now? Was Ash like, she died right now with ult?
Behind him.
Yeah, but I mean, she had ult. She could have like used it.
Meanwhile, in other action taken,
honestly, we would have killed two of them if she used it like while they were fighting me.
Are opening investigations into Russiagate. This is the prosecution of John Brennan, the former head of the CIA, as well as James Comey, the former head of the FBI, for their corrupt activities in connection with the Russiagate investigation. John Brennan continues to maintain that he's heard nothing from the DOJ so far.
The people who actually worked this, both in terms of trying to collect intelligence prior to the election, and then the ones who put together the intelligence community assessment, they really, I think, showed the best of what the intelligence community and what CIA is made of. So, again, I am clueless about what it is exactly that they may be investigating.
I'm working on number one right now.
No, they're investigating. He went in front of Congress and testified that he had nothing to do with the sealed dossier into the intelligence community assessment regarding Russia. And it turns out that, according to internal documents and emails, that is what wasn't exactly correct, actually. John Brennan, one of the most corrupt people in the history of modern American government, and now under investigation. That, of course, is correct. President Trump signed in to chat on this particular matter. Here's what he had to say.
Well, I know nothing about it other than what I read today, but I will tell you, I think they're very dishonest people. I think they're crooked as hell, and maybe they have to pay a price for that. I believe they are truly
Why would you get the magic
and dishonest people. So whatever happens, happens.
Meanwhile, the left continues to look for its point of resistance against the Trump administration. So, let's begin with the most obvious, and that is resistance to immigration. Democrats that enforcing immigration law is the problem. This continues to be immigration. The signal issue of Trump's proposals with regard to immigration are approved by a wide majority of Americans by every available
drag.
And so we're starting to see people try to come up with new angles toward immigration law to make their pitch more sympathetic. So, for example, the San Bernardino bishop, a man named Alberto Rojas, has now put out this saying, we're not recognize U.S. ICE encouraged some members of our diocese to fulfill the obligation and acknowledging that such fear constitutes a grave inconvenience and may impede the spiritual good of the faithful, I hereby decree that all members of the faithful of the Diocese of San Bernardino who keep genuine fear of immigration enforcement actions are unable to attend Sunday Mass and Mass and Holy Day are dispensed from this obligation until such time as the decree is revoked or amended. Pastors, parochial vicars, other pastoral ministers provide compassionate support to those affected by this fear, ensuring they feel welcomed and safe in our communities. Parishes are encouraged to explore alternative means of sacramental preparation for those unable to attend regularly. So, this has been ripped up by some homies. We had a lot of words about this. Said, this is BS, he told the Daily Wire. He said that the announcement was basically designed to set up a public relations stunt by saying that ICE is raiding churches. He said, I don't know a single incident of church raid. Homeland Security spokeswoman Chief Laughlin told the Daily Wire we'd only go in there if there's violent criminals hiding out there. That is just the fact of the matter, unfortunately. The Catholic Church has been a heavy force in facilitating illegal immigration into the United States. That is just a reality. If you go down to the southern border, there are, in fact, Catholic charities that try to facilitate
What is? Why is he on the
and of course,
minion?
churches
So sad.
around the country.
Right here.
That is nothing more.
Come on, Ash. Get him. Turn around and fight him.
What still sort of boggles the mind.
That's crazy. I should have turned around and just autoed him.
Some of these churches are willing to flout federal law
I got life steal.
in this way, as though it is a call of religion.
She just stood there.
To tell people
yeah, she's like too interested in running away. Like she can't like walk in on
positive good or a law that should simply be disregarded. Listen, sometimes religious conviction
can you defend it?
In fact, that happens fairly frequently. But this is
no, I can't.
It's very, very limited. And as Tom Homan says, this happens to be particularly bad. Mayor Brandon Johnson, of course, the leftmost, worst mayor in America until Zoran Mamdani of New York gets elected. He says that the police will never cooperate with ICE.
You know, again, it's unconscionable at a time in which so many working people and poor people need government to show up for them.
Yeah, we just got to get
this
in the lane
administration, the
together.
Trump administration has
well, that
caused
was an auto
so much consternation and division.
You only get
Look,
one like
we are
every
a welcoming
like
city
games.
ordinance. Our local police department will not ever cooperate with ICE.
Yeah, as I say, your party leader.
Whatever their constitutional authority is.
What?
Okay. Well, then I would assume that if you actually
captain.
facilitate illegal immigration in violation of federal law, you could find yourself on the wrong side of the borders are fairly soon. You know, Eric Swalwell, who is a man who chases the cameras like a Kardashian. And that red light goes on anywhere in a 300-mile radius, and Eric Swalwell is running to it. The congressman from California, he says ICE is terrorizing Americans. Are they really sure that this is the angle that they want to take? That the real problem in America is ICE, not illegal immigration? Okay, strong move. We'll see how it works out for them.
What you see in those pictures, is it making America safer?
No, it's terrorizing Americans, our friends and neighbors, otherwise known as immigrants, many of them.
But these are folks who, they go to our churches, they work at our grocery stores, they work on construction sites, they work in childcare, they work in many jobs that would not be filled had they not done it. And I also just sit back and ask, who asked for this? Americans were told that the most violent individuals would be deported, and we're now seeing in the numbers that that is a very small percentage of who is being targeted.
I mean, so, yeah, again, I'm just confused as to why they have declared ICE the problem. It's a very, very strange move. Tom Homan, meanwhile, is saying, listen, you guys keep using violent language, like the ICE are terrorists, or they're Nazis, or Gestapo, and that is going to create problems for our ICE agents. I mean, these things have consequences.
Unless the Democratic leadership stops the rhetoric. I mean, we're hearing from senators and from Congress people like Jayapal connecting us to terrorist group. You got AOC out there saying we're violating people's civil rights and constitutional rights, others comparing us to the Nazis. That tells the left, lunatics out there, it emboldens them. Okay, well, if a member of Congress can compare them to Nazis, then I can take some action. So it's a rhetoric needs to be tapped down, or you're going to see more bloodshed. I called it 2 months ago, and unfortunately, I was right.
Meanwhile, President Trump won a major 8-1 victory at the Supreme Court. So first of all, we should point out an 8-1 victory is an overwhelming victory at the Supreme Court. It means that all of the Republican appointees voted in a particular way, but so did Elena Kagan and Sonia Sotomayor. Even 7-2 is not as big a victory, obviously, not just statistically, but philosophically is an 8-1. An 8-1 basically means unanimous, except for this one crazy person. Usually, when it comes to a court that is as divided as this one. Okay, so in this particular case, the Supreme Court lifted a halt on President Trump's plan to shrink the federal workforce, which cleared the way for potential mass layoffs. In February, Trump had issued an executive order, according to the Wall Street Journal, aimed at drastically reducing the government's workforce by eliminating waste, bloat, and insularity. The order directed heads of agencies to work with DOJ on hiring decisions and develop plans for layoffs. And then in May, a federal judge in San Francisco blocked it from taking effect. So the High Court put out an unsigned order on Tuesday and said that it had based its decision on the legality of Trump's executive order and didn't rule on whether any reorg plans broke the law. The court said, quote, the government is likely to succeed on its argument that the executive order and memorandum are lawful. The only dissenter was Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who has proved herself to now be the worst justice on the Supreme Court. It's not actually all that close, which is shocking. I did not think that the low bar presented by Sonia Sotomayor could ever be underdone. But somehow the underwhelming Ketanji Brown Jackson has achieved this. Right. Not just with her asinine opinions of late, including one in which she just included memes in her opinion and claimed that district court judges should have the ability to shut down the entire federal government whenever they please. Not just that, but now in this ruling, where she suggests that the court is greenlighting illegally dubious actions, quote, this was the wrong decision at the wrong moment, especially given what little this court knows about what is actually happening on the ground. Again, that is a bizarre statement by her. I mean, if you are in doubt, generally speaking, and you're the court, as to the legality of an executive action, you usually wait for ripeness. You usually wait to see what the executive branch does, and then you rule on it. Justice Sotomayor wrote to concur with the court's decision to lift the halt. She said the plans themselves weren't even the thing before the High Court. She said the district court is still going to consider the legality of the layoff plans. It is amazing stuff. But Ketanji Brown Jackson, again, has proved herself to be absolutely an open tool. She did an interview recently with ABC's Lindsay Davis, in which she said that it was her job to express her feelings and her opinions, which, by the way, is just... I'm sorry, it is not your job. It's not poetry. It's not creative writing. These are Supreme Court opinions. You are not supposed to express your feelings. You are supposed to express interpretation of the law. Hopefully, interpretation of the law that hews to the text.
I just like free stacks.
This is not feelings time down at the local drag queen story hour at the library. But here we are with an actual Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson, now talking about how her feelings have to be infused into her opinions.
Are you concerned about the state of democracy today?
You don't hurt them if you don't hit them.
My feelings about the state of democracy have been expressed in the context of my opinions when issues come up related to democracy. So it's hard to say, am I concerned in a general way? The concerns that I have in my book. I think the nice part about being
and is this the guy we were against last game?
I was just wondering that myself.
Whether you're in the majority or in the dissent.
Yeah, it's the Commando from the enemy team.
You mentioned Justice Breyer. One of the things he used to say, sometimes people say, well, the court is so secretive. Nobody knows what goes on in the court. And he used to always say, I don't understand that. We are the only institution where people actually write their opinions when they vote. They tell you exactly what it is. And I just feel that I have a wonderful opportunity to tell in my opinions how I feel about the issues. And that's what I try to do.
Wow. She gets to show her opinion, and that's the important thing. By the way, in this opinion, again, she's outvoted 18 to 12. For some reason, this court sees fit to step in now and release the president's wrecking ball at the outset of this litigation. In my view, this decision is not only truly unfortunate, but also hubristic and senseless. What in the world? What in the world? Again, this sort of language from KJ is she's another one of these people who's going to end up with an acronym. She's incredibly purple in her language, so it is not exactly a shock to find that she now has a fan club. Performative outrage is mode of today, for sure, on both left and right. However, it is demonstrative of what terrible justice she is. Also, whenever you have Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, the senator from Rhode Island, who is a complete and utter dunderhead, defending you, that is a good indicator that you are bad justice. I put out an entire tweet thread defending Ketanji Brown Jackson. Well, what's up with Justice Jackson? She started making her mark and speaking out early, and some of her dissenters to the point that Kagan and Sotomayor don't even join them. The far right is out for her, and even Republican justices are getting snarky. So what's up? Here's my take. By the way, it's the way that we now do that. Here's my take for the thread. For crafting. Well, one of the internal traditions of the court is collegiality. First, you're there for life, so you may as well get along. Second, issues come and issues go. And an ally in one case is an opponent in another. Third, the court thinks of itself as a stately institution, hence the forum matter. All of this is well and good in ordinary times. It's akin to members of Congress calling each other distinguished gentlemen, distinguished gentlemen, to maintain decorum and avoid events, containing of Senator Sumner. But what if we're not? Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. Well, that's, of course, when you need a hero without a cape. A hero in perhaps a judicial. We are in a time when a billionaire-funded scheme has spent decades trying to pack the court with billionaire agreeable justices so as to capture the court in the sense of regulatory capture or agency capture. And what if the billionaires have finally succeeded? What if we're in a time when a billionaire's gifts program has given certain justices lifestyles of the rich and famous, and they have reciprocated with favorable rulings, and sheltered behind the weakest ethics review of any court in the land whenever the gifts program is charity goes on? And it's Justice Jackson. What if a college like a pick on a basketball court? Surely the point of collegiality has a flip side. Obligations behave in a way.
Oh wait, I didn't. That. Oh,
so basically,
that's dirty.
Is awful.
That's dirty. I thought I got
didn't give it to you.
No, I don't even know how you got it. To be honest,
standing up, man. She's standing up to the man. That's her thing. It's not.
Oh, I thought you meant like the heel.
No. The
are we really gonna do this
First
girl boss
Blood
stuff when she's just bad justice? I mean, I guess
the kill.
Because I even did the last hit on like
your auto hit before mine did, but she survived your auto attack.
Some of the are absolutely excellent. I mean, right now, the FTC is targeting gender-affirming care and consumer fraud. There's a lot the federal government is doing on the regulatory side that is going largely unnoticed, but that's excellent. According to the Daily Wire, a major move against the transgender medical industry, the Federal Trade Commission hosted a workshop on Wednesday in Washington, D.C., examining the so-called gender-affirming care. And FTC
just kidding.
Sparked the ire of leftist activists. At the beginning of the panel, FTC Chairman Andrew Ferguson addressed the objection that trans issues are outside his agency's purview. In fact, said Ferguson, the FTC targets industries and entities that lie or deceive the public. And then he said that the trans medicine industry is a lie and it is deceiving the public, which of course is absolutely true. Meanwhile, the TSA has finally decided to get rid of the shoe removal rule. So the thing that's been annoying you for legitimately 20 years, where you go to the
oh wait, she did hit it. She just didn't die for it.
And then you have to shuffle through and put your shoes back
beyond
on.
unfortunate.
All because there was an attempted shoe bomber way back when.
Lux did everything right, but got no reward.
Perfect sense. Christy notes that our security technology has changed. It's evolved. SA has changed. Airport wait times average about 27 minutes, and some of the times off the process. A spokesperson told Axios on Tuesday that TSA and DHS are always attempting to do innovative ways to
What the hell?
3 months after the 9/11 attacks,
it's two
that
stuns.
a terrorist named Richard Reed tried to detonate explosives hidden in
on
sneakers on an American Airlines flight. But it took 5 years for TSA to implement that shoes-off policy, citing a continuing threat.
See the fireworks?
So, you know, again, this is how government typically works when you have cuts.
Hey, Mel can't do that when I play.
Those cuts are being used, in some cases, or attempted cuts, as a sort of wage blaming administration, for example. So we have yet to hear that FEMA has somehow mishandled the Texas flood circumstance. But CNN is doing its very, very best. They're saying that there's nothing for the federal government and its projected cost, then FEMA would have been even faster with regards to this Texas flood. According to CNN, FEMA ran into bureaucratic obstacles for officials inside the agency said. Homeland Security Secretary Christian Note recently enacted a sweeping rule aimed at cutting spending. Every contract and grant over $100,000 now requires a personal sign-off before any funds can be released. For FEMA, where disaster response costs routinely soar into the billions as the agency contracts with on-the-ground crews, officials say the threshold is essentially pennies, requiring a sign-off for relatively small expenditures. And they're complaining that means that there is too much bureaucracy. So FEMA officials
what a good snare.
Stationed regionally across the country without known approval. Past FEMA will equip and stage these teams, which are specifically trained for situations including catastrophic floods closer to a disaster zone in anticipation of urgent requests. FEMA officials realized they needed NOM's approval before sending those additional assets. NOM didn't authorize that deployment of urban search and rescue teams until Monday, 72 hours after the flooding began. Now, Tricia McLaughlin told CNN NOM did not need to authorize those additional resources initially because the department used other DHS search and rescue assets, and that over time, the need for FEMA resources arose. Those requests received NOM's approval.
Or at least get vision
so
and stuff.
basically, CNN is trying to spin up the idea that FEMA did not act with any level of timeliness because of this ridiculous bureaucratic nonsense. Okay, but DHS is saying no, that's not how it works. We actually had other resources on the ground, and then it got approved, and we shifted resources. So in order for this to be a major problem, what we have to do is make the case that FEMA somehow is not on the ground to do their job. So far, it is not clear that that is the case. But the media are doing their very best. First, they tried to claim that cuts to the National Weather Service had allowed this sort of damage, and it turned out that wasn't true. Now they're trying their next strategy, which is explicit approval for mid-range to large-scale costs.
I'm gonna use the rift.
Caused delay, but they haven't actually shown evidence of a delay that affected how things were dealt with regard to Texas flood. Trying to because this is the way that it works. All cuts are bad. All cuts will kill people, and now they're just looking for an excuse. Now, one of the weird oddities of the Democratic approach to the Trump administration is they want to suggest that the government is both attempting to radically cut itself and also is an autocracy. One of the foremost people making this claim was former Georgia Governor Stacey Abrams.
An enemy has been slain.
But she claims she was the governor, and then she thought about running for president. And then she has a new viral video, 10 steps to autocracy with Jimmy. And we're going to go through that right now. Alrighty, so let's begin with her step to autocracy. Well, let's hear it, Stacey.
Okay, so this happens in every nation that has become an autocracy, having been a democracy. So whether we're talking about Brazil with Bolsonaro, or India, or Putin and Russia, and Philippines with Duterte. So start with winning an election.
Pause it there for 1 second. Okay, I just want to say, at the very outset, that Brazil did not become an autocracy under Bolsonaro. And India is not an autocracy now, under Modi. So at least 2 of the examples she's currently citing are not in fact autocracy. In fact, Bolsonaro is no longer in charge of Brazil, and actually is more of an autocracy thanks to the leadership of left-winger Lula da Silva, which is why President Trump just hit them with a 50% tariff. And then he got their state
Have expansive executive power. The president decides he wants more than this. Number 3, you start to make the Congress complicit, so you weaken them and neutralize or neuter the
gold.
judiciary. Like, oh, I don't know, the Supreme Court has better power. You don't have to.
Actually, that's not neutralizing. Okay, so there are a bunch of things. 1, expand the executive power. Remember that time that Barack Obama was president? He said that because Congress wouldn't give him what he wanted, he would use his pen and his phone to do things. Then expansion of executive power a little bit. At that time, that Joe Biden decided he could just make 80 million people vaccinate using OSHA regulations. And and that he could just alleviate the student loan debt of tens of millions of people just for no reason. Was that, in fact, an expansion of executive power or attempted expansion of executive power? I feel like, yeah. As far as the idea that you're running roughshod over the judiciary, when the judiciary rules in a way you don't like, that does not mean the judiciary has now been ignored. In fact, Joe Biden is routinely saying that if the judiciary did not do the thing he wanted to do, he would simply find another way to do it. He said that with regard to the student loan process. So far, this is a really bad diagnosis by the PCS. I still can't get over the fact that she says when things are transforming into autocracy, you're having the last election we'll ever have. She said Bolsonaro is the reason. But Bolsonaro's not the leader of Brazil, and right now he may end up in jail for a significant period of time. They had another election and left one. This is just so stupid.
Then you move on to firing all the people who know how to do this work. You do that to break democracy, so people forget the stuff that you can get done. You can't get your security check, so the CDC doesn't know what the rules are anymore. Then you put in place loyalists, people who are only responsible to you. You put them in charge of the FBI, so they go after your enemies. You put them in charge of the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice, so they can talk to their friends and tell them all about the evil plans that you have. Then you make certain that you break how you criticize you call it.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so let's just get back to it. She said that you break the bureaucracy by making it not work in order to achieve an autocracy. Well, no. Usually an autocracy is heavily reliant on a vastly effective bureaucracy that oversees every aspect of people's lives. So actually the efficacy of the bureaucracy is the prerequisite to full autocracy. The problem in the Soviet Union or in Nazi Germany was not an incompetent bureaucracy. It was a highly competent bureaucracy, specifically, for example, in CCP China right now. Very competent, very large, even if not competent, very large and overweening bureaucracy. They staff it with loyalists because, like the FBI, and have them go after your enemies. They literally prosecuted Donald Trump multiple times in the last administration. You know, what did she said? Well, maybe you attack me. You create your own propaganda outlet. What happened?
That's pretty solid bait. I don't know if you meant to bait it that much, but...
Go to the next step. I call that step
Closer
7.
than I thought.
At step 7, you have to blame someone. You have to blame people for the broken government, for the broken promises. So you go after DEI. You go after the vulnerable, the dispossessed. You go after any community that doesn't look like what you think power should be.
I'd say Garen is, or not Garen. Assus is Thanos this game, but we have Mundo.
Go after philanthropies and accuse them of giving money to the wrong people. You go after colleges and universities that can teach people possibly what else they can know. You get to step 9 and you start to encourage and incentivize private violence. You send the U.S. Marines into spaces they should not be. You send the National Guard and kidnap people off of the streets and pretend that's normal. Because that's how you quiet dissent. Because you make everyone afraid that if they don't do what you want, they might be next. And once you've done those 9 steps, steps 10 is missing, that's when you decide there won't be any fight. Because everyone's either afraid, poor, broken, or conflicted.
So, this is so insane. This is another group. Unworkability of government. The entire Democratic Party has been for decades. Unworkability of the federal government is due to a white supremacist power structure that lies at the root of America. Which means you have to have $2 billion riots in 2020. And then she said you have to attack the institutions, including the church and the family. Is that what you're talking about? You know, those institutions, like the fundamental institution of civil society. And then she says you incentivize private violence. Give examples of
an enemy has been slain.
U.S. Marines and National Guard. That's not incentivizing private violence. Incentivizing private violence, that would be like when you make excuses for gigantic flags $1 billion in damage. Or, like, when you make excuses for people who murder healthcare CEOs, allegedly. Really? And then she says, final step, no new election. So her paranoia is there will be no new election. I would love to see one iota of that. But, again, the paranoia justifies anything. It really does. The conspiratorial paranoia on the left justifies violence. It will get more violent from here, guys. It will. If you really believe that Nazi Germany is you are justified.
I might still be dead though, so I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, look at that.
That is implemented
I live.
set up. Okay, in lighter and stupider,
Special.
the WNBA is now
I
giving
knew this guy's
Angel
dead.
Reese to their 2K26 video
Never
game
mind.
cover, which is really, really exciting. I will say that Angel Reese apparently has been on a tear as of late, according to ESPN, averaging 18 points, 17 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals during her 6-game double-double scoring streak, which is truly impressive. I know we are all very, very impressed by her shockingly amazing basketball skills. And first of all, I always feel bad showing clips of the WNBA because watching the WNBA is mostly like watching bad team basketball games. There is all-star, absolute superstar Angel Reese coming down the floor.
You lived a
isolation
long,
situation.
healthy life.
This is pretty stunning.
Oh no! No!
You got this, I believe.
Oh! No! No! That was crazy. They're furious.
This particular play.
They are furious.
Reese lost the handle.
Oh.
In transition.
My goodness, I haven't seen a handle like that since me in 5th grade. That is really that is
God
really
damn it.
some extraordinary
Mundo lived
basketball
there,
play.
they
By the
would've
way,
quit the game.
her 2025 stats, again, not that I haven't memorized it because I clearly don't.
If it's worth shooting
I looked it up.
once, it's
She's played
probably
19
worth
games.
shooting a lot.
She's averaging 13 points a game. Okay, now I would just like to, for contrast, put forward. I know we have to do it. We do. Caitlin Clark. Okay, so Caitlin Clark, her current stats right now, according to BasketballReference.com, she's played in 10 games this season. Okay, because she's been injured. She averages 17 points a game. Okay, so more points a game. On the career, she averages 19 points per game, as opposed to 13 points per game for Angel Reese. Now, let's be clear what's happening right now. The WNBA is bending over backward, not to just save the Caitlin Clark. They're bending over backward because Angel Reese has been the bench walk of Caitlin Clark, and there are a lot of players in the league complaining that Caitlin Clark is too white to be featured by the WNBA, even though Caitlin Clark is making them all significantly more rich and significantly more famous. You've not heard of any of the players in the WNBA until Caitlin Clark made them famous when they started bullying Caitlin Clark, or, as in the case of one of her teammates,
That is
came to
not
Caitlin Clark.
true. What is this guy on?
So, I mean, WNBA can do this, but it is, in fact, completely obvious to me of the guy. No one is Whenever Caitlin Clark shut down, and so it just speaks to the reality of the WNBA that as a league that has existed off the subsidies from the NBA for decades at this point, the entire reason for being for the league is to reinforce these DEI perceptions. And at the very moment, the actual popularity they are unable to. That's the only takeaway I can make of it. So I asked my sponsors at Perplexity, because I was definitely not going to know this off the top of my head. Who are the top 10 scorers for the last season, top 10 rebounders, and top 10 assist makers for the WNBA 2024 season? Top 10 scorers: Asia Wilson, Arike Ogunbowale. Again, I'm going to skip all these names. I've never heard of these people because the WNBA follow your local curling competition. Aaliyah Copper, Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, Jewel Lord, and then Caitlin Clark at 19 points a game. And I will note here that there is no mention of Angel Reese is the number one rebounder, mainly by rebounding her own misses.
Take that.
That is basically how she stacks those up. She gets it in paint, she blows a layup, she rebounds it, she blows another layup, she rebounds it, she blows another layup, she rebounds it. It's a great way to pad your rebounding stats, actually. And the top 10 assist makers, Caitlin Clark, number 1. Per game. Again, the only rank in which Angel Reese lists is rebounding. That's all. So, congrats.
Look at that.
Meanwhile, the President of the United States is trying to negotiate an off-ramp looks like Steve Witkoff.
Did you see that?
There's been various
I used the rift to kill her. I didn't kill her with it, but like I knocked her out.
goes into exile. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is a non-Hamas funding, non-Hamas humanitarian dispersal firm, that they continue to be the aid mechanism by which Palestinians get aid. Cleared, essentially left there. That would be the end, and the release of the hostage. That would be essentially the end of the war. Apparently, according to Barak Rabi, who is always being leaked, U.S. Israeli and Qatari officials held secret talks in the White House on Tuesday, focusing on key remaining sticking points for a ceasefire and hostage deal in Gaza. Apparently, President Trump met with Prime Minister Netanyahu twice in the last 48 hours, as he's pressing both sides to finalize the deal. The sticking point is the lines to which the IDF would withdraw during the 60 days of truce. So Israel saying, we don't want to withdraw from this territory, we have to go back and mop up anyway after having a lot of soldiers spilled. Hamas is saying, we'd love for you to withdraw so we can retake a lot of that territory. Both sources say that Witkoff and the Qatari official made it clear to Ron Dermer, chief advisor to Netanyahu, the map proposed by Israel, which involves a far narrower redeployment than the one the IDF carried out during the previous ceasefire, is a non-starter. Qatar said that Hamas would likely reject the proposal, and the talks could even collapse over the issue. Witkoff told Dermer a redeployment map that looks like the smoke and includes an ongoing Israeli occupation of large parts of Gaza, a no-go for the Trump administration. Well, I mean, Witkoff can say that as much as he wants, but Witkoff is the one who has to pay the price in blood. So presumably, Netanyahu is going to go back. Now, we will see where this is. I think this is will probably get done. There are also some gaps that remain with regard to who will provide aid. So Hamas, of course, is insisting that the UN provide aid. Why? Why do you provide aid? They steal all of it. We work with the UN. The goodwill of Hamas wants it, is not good. That is a general goodwill of Hamas. If they want it, they're not a good thing. Prime Minister Netanyahu says, listen, we want a ceasefire, but not at any price.
In pursuing this common goal, we have a common strategy. Not only do we have a common strategy, we have common tactics. This doesn't involve pressure.
Yeah, you're probably gonna die.
It involves full coordination. President Trump wants a deal,
never mind,
but not in any price.
They'd go after you more,
but not in any price. Israel has security requirements and other requirements.
I thought they were going after you.
We're working together to try to achieve.
So, we'll find out what happens, obviously, over the course of the rest of
forgot,
this
they don't
week
care
in
about
terms
the
of
fact that you're a
negotiation.
carry.
Meanwhile,
they're gonna just ignore you.
The UN is a tool of
Oh my God!
His name is Francesca Albanese.
Still didn't reach him.
A legal bar examination or ever been licensed to practice law.
Oh my gosh.
And all she is,
That's not
is
good.
effectively a propagandist on behalf of Hamas. She blamed Israel for the October 7th Hamas terrorist group. Has compared Netanyahu to Adolf Hitler. And the United States is saying, honestly, she needs to go. The State Department, Marco Rubio, announced sanctions on Albanese yesterday, saying that she opposes the interests of the United States and her allies, which of course is true. But today, I'm imposing sanctions on UN Human Rights Council Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese was an illegitimate and shameful action to prompt the international criminal court action against U.S. and Israeli officials, companies, and executives. Albanese campaign political and economic warfare against the United States and Israel will no longer be tolerated. We will always stand by our partners in their rights to self-defense. The U.S. will continue to take whatever action we deem necessary to respond to welfare, to protect our sovereignty, and that of our allies. And of course, the right approach is Rubio doing what he's supposed to be doing to
I just can't get him.
the United States. And just an example of the kind of stuff that Albanese says. Here she was, giving a report just a week ago of UN Human Rights Council, fundamentally untrue.
Israel is responsible for one of the cruelest genocides in modern history. At the same time, since October 2023, the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange has soared by 213% in US dollars, amassing $225.7 billion in market gains, including 67.8 billion in the last month alone. 1 people enriched, 1 people erased. Member states must impose a full arms embargo on Israel, suspend all trade agreements and investment relations.
No, I'm out.
Appreciates the special rapporteur for her bold and courageous report.
Anti-Semites are those who support the genocidal government.
Why does the genocide continue? Because it is profitable, says the report. The method used by US and European companies used to finance Hitler continues to be used today.
The attack against Gaza is a genocidal war.
This regime understands no language of force, not the language of law. No the voice of
I don't even want to be in the same zip code as that Nassus right now.
Yeah, again, this is what Albany does.
That's slow as you dummy strong.
My hello,
Mr. President, is today's report balanced? Israel is 68 times. Now, on October 7th, the world saw Hamas start a war by invading Israel, firing thousands of rockets, massacring 1,200 people, including families and little children in their homes. Hamas pledged to do it again. Israel has been fighting a just war against a terrorist army which cynically embeds itself among civilians. Ms. Albanese
was giving a report just a week ago at the UN Human Rights Council and just saying things that are fundamentally untrue.
Israel is responsible for one of the cruelest genocides in modern history. At the same time, since October 2023, the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange has soared by 213% in US dollars, amassing $225.7 billion US dollars in market gains, including 67.8 billion in the last month alone. 1 people enriched, 1 people erased. Member states must impose a full arms embargo on Israel, suspend all trade agreements and investment relations.
The League of Arab States appreciates the special rapporteur for her bold and courageous report.
Anti-Semites are those who support the genocidal government.
Why does the genocide continue? Because it is profitable, says the report. The method used by US and European companies used to finance Hitler continues to be used today.
The attack against Gaza is a genocidal war.
This regime understands no language but the language of force, not the language of law, nor the voice of civilized nations.
So, yeah, again, this is what Albanese does. Right? This is her today. Meanwhile, she was called out at the UN by Hillel Noor of UN Watch, pointing out exactly why she's wrong in everything she said.
Mr. President, is today's report balanced? Israel is accused of genocide 68 times. Now, on October 7th, the world saw Hamas start a war by invading Israel, firing thousands of rockets, massacring 1,200 people, including families and little children in their homes. Hamas pledged to do it again. Israel has been fighting a just war against a terrorist army which cynically embeds itself among civilians. Ms. Albanese, war is not genocide. But in your report, there's no war at all. It's only about Israel. We ask, why does your report never mention once the October 7th invasion and massacre, or even the word Hamas? Why does your report never once mention Hezbollah on October 8th? Joining Hamas's war, they began firing thousands of missiles at Israel. Why does your report never once mention the Islamic Republic of Iran, which armed and trained its proxies and orchestrated the attacks, which itself fired hundreds of missiles at Israel? They openly call for genocide against the Israeli people. Why didn't you find reason to mention them once? Distinguished delegates, this report is an inversion. Silence on aggressors openly pursuing genocide and demonization of our democracy, defending its people from a multi-front war.
Now, again, he is right about all of that, and that is the reason why the United States is calling out Francesca Albanese and the United Nations more generally. All right, folks, we've reached the end of today's show. Back here tomorrow with much more. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is the Ben Shapiro Show.
Don't just get the news. Understand what the news means on The Michael Knowles Show. I will take you beneath the surface of daily political events to see their historical, philosophical, even religious roots. Catch it Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern from the Daily Wire.
Alrighty, folks, as you can see, I am back in my studio. Shout out to the subscribers who are wondering where the heck I was. Plus, just word of warning, tomorrow, my Superman review will be out. I did go and watch that last night. Tons happening in the news we'll get to. An insane resistance to the immigration raid in California on a pot farm that was using illegal immigrant underage labor, and somehow the left has decided that the Trump administration is wrong. We'll bring you the latest from the New York Zoran Mamdani race. But first, it has been a massive week at the Daily Wire. On Monday, we added Isabel Brown to our roster, and today we've got something special. We're debuting the first look at a new Daily Wire Plus documentary, Journey to the UFC. The true story of Joe Piper, who went from an abusive home and living on the streets to breaking bones, breaking odds, and earning a UFC contract the hard way. It premieres July 25th at Daily Wire Plus. A little bit later on in the show, the man himself, Joe Piper, will join me on the show, so stick around. Here's the trailer.
I don't care what you did in your career the last 5 years. What are you going to do tonight? Be fired up to fight. Try to finish the fight. If you want to get into the UFC and this is where you want to be Joe Piper.
Piper left home at 16. He spent the next few years homeless, bouncing around.
The pain that I know that kid went through and overcame, if you want to beat him, you got to kill him.
The second you lose, everybody forgets you. I wasn't ready to be forgotten.
You guys are really going to love this documentary. It's because of you we can keep bringing you this kind of awesome stuff. Become a member today. Get stuff like this, Ben Shapiro Show, and more completely ad-free. Join us at DailyWirePlus.com. Also, my brand new book, Lions and Scavengers, is now available for pre-order at Amazon.com. It's a rallying cry against the lies poisoning our culture. Trust me, the scavengers, or many of them, will not like it again. Pre-order Lions and Scavengers, first book in 5 years, now at Amazon.com. Well, we've reached the point now where the entire leftist program is performative outrage. It's performative outrage all the way, even at things that actually they should not only not be outraged by, they should actually be on the side of. So, as today's example, I give you this raid by ICE at a large pot farm in Southern California. So, according to the New York Times, federal agents raided a large cannabis farm in Southern California on Thursday, clashing with protesters and arresting multiple people. Okay, so that sounds like these are just normal people. I'm sure they're illegal immigrants, but they're picking the pot that America needs. First of all, let's point out that they're not raiding a tomato farm. It's a pot farm. Pot actually is quite a damaging product on the American market, and if you don't believe me, visit LA, visit Denver, visit any major American city where cannabis has become recreationally heavy. Footage taken by local news media from helicopters showed the agents firing tear gas and crowd control munitions during the operation in Camarillo, California. The agents were executing criminal search warrants, according to Tricia McLaughlin, the spokeswoman for the Department of Homeland Security. So what exactly were they doing now? Well, Rodney Scott, Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection, said on social media, 10 juveniles, 8 of them unaccompanied, were found at one of the facilities raided on Thursday. All of them were in the country illegally. So this would have been illegal underage labor. This was a pot farm using illegal underage labor. It's hard to think of a place that is more deserving, actually, of a federal law enforcement raid than a pot farm that is engaging in illegal underage labor. I mean, seriously, like pick a place of work in America that deserves a raid more than that one. Not a granary, not a normal vegetable farm. But we are talking about a cannabis farm that produces what is still a federally illegal drug and does so with illegal child labor. And the left was protesting. The left freaked out. So, protesters showed up because they heard that ICE was showing up. And basically, this is the way that things now work. If ICE shows up in place, the protesters get together and decide that they're going to then obstruct ICE from doing its job. So here is some of the video of some of these pathetic folks trying to obstruct an ICE vehicle.
This is happening at Wood and Laguna, and you now see the military vehicles advancing despite those protesters trying to make a stance and trying to stop the military vehicle from continuing on. And there's cameras rolling, cell phone cameras rolling, and this group of people are really trying to get this military vehicle to stop, and
I like the large pink-haired lady who keeps trying to poke the wheels with the Mexican flag. It's a Humvee. You're not exactly holding an IED over there. She's literally taking a flagpole with a Mexican flag on it and trying to poke at the tires feebly in the attempt to stop ICE. So great job there. But it wasn't just the idiots who showed up with Mexican flags trying to poke at the tires of ICE vehicles. There was also at least one person who showed up with a gun and then actually fired at an ICE agent. is what it appears to be in this particular video. Here is the person spotlight.
This video right here, it appears a protester fired some kind of gun at federal agents. This happened this afternoon. It was a really chaotic scene at the time. A lot of smoke was being launched at the protesters, and again, it appears a protester fired back with that weapon. It looks like he fired at least a couple of times. We have not heard about any agents being hurt.
Okay, so you are no longer a protester. You are now an attempted murderer if you fire a gun at a federal agent. I mean, and treating this as though this is sort of normie protest, of course, is untrue. Well, the video that was then put out and went viral on social media was not the video of the so-called protester shooting a gun or the idiots who are attempting to stop an ICE vehicle using flagpoles. It was children protesters running from tear gas, and because it turns out that ICE fired some tear gas in order to disperse the crowd so they could get the job done of, you know, raiding the pot farm using the illegal immigrant child labor. Here's what it looks like.
That's great.
So there's a woman with kids running away.
Ally has been slain.
So you can see the tear gas and people kind of walking away. Half of them are wearing sandals. These are not people who are all getting arrested or being brutalized or something. And when they say children are running away, number one, they should point out that some of the children who are running away were presumably brought there as protesters, because if they were there as child labor, the parents should be in jail. It's a violation of both federal and state law to use your small children as child labor at a cannabis farm, you should point out. But this caused Gavin Newsom, again, we're talking about performative politics, this caused Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who desperately wants to run for president of the United States, to tweet out, quote, kids running from tear gas, crying on the phone because their mother was just taken from the field. Trump calls me new scum, but he's the real scum. Wow. With that sort of performative outrage, that dude might win half a primary in the presidential race for the Democratic nomination in 28. Kids running away from what are they doing there in the first place? What are kids doing at an immigration raid? Why are they there? I mean, that would be the real question. Why have you and the left incentivized parents to bring small children to protest immigration raids at a cannabis farm employing underage labor? Right, that's question number one. Question number two is, he's suggesting that kids are crying because mom is being taken away. That the only person on tape I can see who's crying about this appears to be a young man whose mom was taken away. We don't know the details of why she was arrested or what her immigration status was or anything like that. But this is the way that the media have covered all these illegal immigration raids. They're covering it as though ICE is randomly showing up at Home Depot and just driving people away on an overall basis. It's happening all the time. The problem is that the numbers don't actually justify that.
Shut down.
Right now, the Trump administration is actually not doing heavy removal. According to NBC News, ICE agents last month arrested most people in at least 5 years, but deportations are still lagging far behind what President Trump has promised, and even those in the Obama administration, according to data obtained by NBC News. The discrepancy between arrests and deportations highlights the challenges the Trump administration faces to make good on President Trump's Inauguration Day vow to deport millions and millions of illegal immigrants. According to ICE data, the agents arrested roughly 30,000 immigrants last month. The most of the monthly data was made publicly available in November 2020. By the way, I love how NBC News, I'm adding the word illegal here. NBC News just calls them immigrants. Quote, according to ICE data, its agents arrested roughly 30,000 immigrants last month. Well, why would they be able to just arrest immigrants? If you're a legal immigrant, the administration is not going to and cannot arrest you. You have to have violated the law in some way that calls for your deportation in order for them to pursue the arrest. So they're just obscuring the actual story by ignoring the actual story in the media. And they keep doing that. This entire article just refers to everyone being arrested as an immigrant. Not even undocumented, not even kind of the mush words that they like to use. The number of immigrants deported in June, illegal immigrants, more than 18,000, amounts to roughly half the number of arrests, according to internal figures obtained by NBC News. So again, this kind of idea that ICE is going around and then randomly arresting mass numbers of illegal immigrants at church, for example. There's pretty much no evidence that that is happening at the moment. In fact, there's so little evidence that that is happening that many in the MAGA base are quite upset with President Trump because they believe that he might amnesty farm workers. President Trump has mentioned the idea of providing some sort of temporary shield for illegal immigrant farm workers and hospitality workers, people working in hotels, for example. He's insisted there will be no amnesty, but also suggested that some workers might be allowed to stay if their employers take responsibility for them. That's according to Axios. And so what we're doing is getting rid of criminals, but we are doing a work program. He said at a cabinet meeting this week. So again, that the policy that the media are saying that Trump is pursuing is not actually the policy that he's pursuing. But because the media are fibbing about the actual policy, and because there are people on social media who are able to blow those fibs up into full-fledged stories, because of that, you end up with violence against ICE agents, people showing up en masse to stop what are clearly legitimate law enforcement raids. People are telling lies about ICE all the time. Here, for example, is the acting ICE director, Todd Lyons, who points out that Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, who keeps claiming that members of ICE aren't showing ID, that that's false. That's not even true.
I mean, Data, you can see from all the video too, right? They say the ICE agents, they're not properly marked. You see them in their tactical gear, in their vest, where, you see plainly see FBI, ATF, ICE, HSI, ERO, whoever's out with us. So the mayor's claims are just totally.
What's up, girl? What are you talking about? I asked him to hang something and he's putting holes in the wall. What'd you ask him to hang? I don't know what to tell you. Don't know what to tell you, man. Alright, but I gotta take off. But I'll be on other times. Hop on anytime.
Alright, see ya.
Good games, man. It's fun.
Definitely.
Alright, we'll see ya.